Chapter 3032. Mission accomplished. In the void above the swamp, Jian Wushuang looked down at the towering temple with cold eyes. The first person is hiding here? How remote! Jian Wushuang sneered in his heart. At the same time, his soul power had sensed the presence of a large number of maids and beauties in the temple. He was clearly hiding from the pursuit, but he still brought so many maids and beauties with him for his enjoyment. Humph, he really deserves to die. Without any hesitation, Jian Wushuang dived down. Boom! The restriction that had always existed in the sky above the swamp was broken by Jian Wushuang in an instant, and he directly charged into the palace. The golden-robed middle-aged man sitting in the main hall also looked up in horror. When he looked up, he found Jian Wushuang, who had entered the palace. He was wearing a gray robe and a gray, cold mask, which was obviously the attire of a member of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. There was only one person from the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance who might come to kill him. Heavenly Sword Marquis. It's Heavenly Sword Marquis. The gold-robed middle-aged man turned pale with fright, and his heart turned cold instantly. He immediately began to flee. At the same time, he immediately wanted to send a message to the highest level of the Magic Note Divine Kingdom, Lord Wu. How is it possible? My hiding place is so remote. How did Heavenly Sword Marquis find me? Could it be that the maidservants around me, the beauties, leaked the news? The golden-robed middle-aged man kept growling in his heart. At first, he thought that it was the people around him who leaked the news so that Jian Wushuang could find them. But soon he denied this guess. Because he had already set up a special magic array in this swamp, which was the restriction that Jian Wushuang had just broken. The restriction could prevent the handmaidens and beauties from communicating with the outside world. Except for him, no one could communicate with the outside world. The news that he was hiding here could not have been leaked by someone close to him. Since it was not the maids and beauties who leaked the news, then the person who leaked the news. Could it be the king? The golden-robed middle-aged man just thought of this. Buzz. A silver light appeared beside him like a ghost, and at the same time, a cold sword light swept toward him. The golden-robed middle-aged man was only a rank 1 true saint, and his strength was average. Even before Jian Wushuang had broken through to the immortal saint realm, he could easily kill this man's rank 1 true saint. Now that he had broken through to the immortal saint realm, his battle strength was strong enough to rival a rank 4 true saint. Killing such a rank 1 true saint was as easy as killing a chicken or slaughtering a dog. After consuming 2 drops of the god-burning poison, the golden-robed middle-aged man's eyes were wide open, but his consciousness was gradually dissipating. When his consciousness was about to completely dissipate, he had completely figured it out. The Magic Note King's tough attitude toward the outside world was just an act. In fact, the Magic Note King had already submitted to Heavenly Sword Marquis and told him where he was hiding. Unfortunately, it was too late for him to figure it out. A moment later, Jian Wushuang set off again toward the second person's hiding place. The last 4 people on the must-kill list were hiding in 4 different places. However, Jian Wushuang already knew about these 4 places. All he had to do was to find them one by one and kill them. His movements were very fast and neat. The 4 people had not received any news and thought that the Magic Note King would try his best to protect them. In the end, they all died under Jian Wushuang's sword. After killing these 4 people, all 12 people on the must-kill list had died. Naturally, Jian Wushuang had completed the heaven-level task. He did not plan to stay in the Magic Note Divine Kingdom and left directly. However, no one in the outside world knew about their deaths. The experts under the Magic Note Divine Kingdom had not received any news. Most of them thought that the 4 people were still hiding or had left the Magic Note King, but they did not know that they had died at Jian Wushuang's hands. Therefore, the reputation and dignity of the Magic Note Divine Kingdom were barely preserved. In the Magic Note Divine Kingdom, there was a secret lair of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. In the secret lair, Shuedong King was already waiting for him. Shuedong King, I'm sorry to have kept you waiting. Jian Wushuang appeared in front of Shuedong King with an apologetic look on his face. Not at all. Besides, it's worth waiting for decades to see the good show between you and the Magic Note King. Shui Dong King laughed. Deep down, Shui Dong King still had not completely calmed down. He had not left immediately after giving Jian Wushuang the god-burning poison. Instead, he had stayed behind to watch the battle between Jian Wushuang and the Magic Note Divine Kingdom. He had seen it clearly. Jian Wushuang had defeated Gold King at the beginning, then massacred many true saint experts of the Magic Note Divine Fruit, and finally, the king of the Magic Note Divine Kingdom had personally arrived. In the end, he could not do anything to Jian Wushuang. He was even forced back by Jian Wushuang in a head-on confrontation. This scene shocked Shui Dong King more than he had ever seen before. At that time, he could not help roaring in his heart, a rank 1 true saint is fighting against a rank 4 true saint. Does he still want to live? Shui Dong King was more and more impressed with Jian Wushuang, and he could not see through him. Shui Dong King, wait for me. I'll go in hand in the task. Jian Wushuang immediately walked to the counter. At the counter, Jian Wushuang took out his identity token and began to hand in the task. When the purple-robed elder who handed in the task to Jian Wushuang knew Jian Wushuang's identity and the task he had completed, his heart was filled with excitement. The secret lair was located in the Magic Note Divine Land. The person in charge of the lair was well aware of what was happening in the Magic Note Divine Land, so he was naturally amazed. It did not take long for Jian Wushuang's mission to be completed. At the same time, he received a reward of 150 million sacred elixirs. Shui Dong King, this is for you. Jian Wushuang waved his hand and handed an interspatial ring to Shui Dong King. Shui Dong King took it and took a look. His body suddenly trembled. Brother Heavenly Marquis, what are you doing? You sent me 100 drops of god-burning poison. It's very expensive, but I haven't given you the sacred elixirs. Jian Wushuang smiled. But isn't this too much? Shui Dong King said immediately. It was not his fault for being shocked. There were 100 million sacred elixirs in the interspatial ring that Jian Wushuang gave him. 100 million. He had only used 40 million sacred elixirs to buy the 100 drops of god-burning venom, but now Jian Wushuang had given him more than twice that. Chapter 30-33. Return to the 9 realms of the Golden Crow, take it. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. He had a certain friendship with Shui Dong King, but it was not very deep. But this time, when he sent a message to Shui Dong King asking him to send him some god-burning poison, he told him in detail about his situation, including the fact that the surrounding area was completely sealed and he was only allowed to enter and not leave. In the end, Shui Dong King did not hesitate at all and directly agreed. This made Jian Wushuang feel very touched and grateful. A friend like Shui Dong King was worth making a deep friendship with. Therefore, Jian Wushuang was not stingy and directly took out 100 million sacred elixirs. The extra 60 million sacred elixirs were his gratitude to Shui Dong King for taking the risk for him. Looking at the interspatial ring in his hand, Shui Dong King did not hesitate and said, "Okay, I'll take it." Shui Dong King had seen Jian Wushuang slaughter many experts of the Magic Note Divine Kingdom. Many true saint experts had died at Jian Wushuang's hands, and those true saint experts were all rich. Therefore, Jian Wushuang had gained a lot of wealth. In addition to the reward for this mission, it could be said that he had made a lot of money, so he was not too unreasonable. Brother Heavenly Marquis, what are your plans next? Shui Dong King looked at Jian Wushuang. I still have some private matters to deal with, Jian Wushuang said. In that case, let's split up again. I'll go to the Barbarian King team. Brother Heavenly Marquis, if you have any problems in the future, like this time, you can look for me at any time, Shui Dong King said. Okay. Jian Wushuang nodded. Soon they separated. Jian Wushuang was already planning his next move. I've already reached the Immortal Saint Realm, and I've just reached the rank 1 True Saint Realm. Logically speaking, my strength is still rising. As long as I have the opportunity, my strength can be greatly improved in a short time. Opportunity. In the Secret Realm, I promised the spirit of the Secret Realm that when I reached the Immortal Saint Realm, I would go to the Secret Realm again to accept the test left by the Master of the Secret Realm. Now that my realm has reached, I should fulfill my promise, Jian Wushuang muttered. Jian Wushuang's eyes flashed with a glimmer of light, but he had an idea in his heart. Then he directly set off. The endless territory was vast and boundless. The Magic Note Divine Kingdom occupied a total of 36 territories, which was already an extremely large divine kingdom. However, compared to the entire endless territory, it was only a drop in the ocean. The Magic Note Divine Kingdom was also very far away from the 9 realms of the Golden Crow. Fortunately, Jian Wushuang was now a member of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance, and he was also a Heaven-level member. His authority was not small, and the secret nests of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance were scattered all over the Divine Beginning world. There was also a secret lair of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance around the territory of the 9 realms of the Golden Crow. Through the spatial passage, Jian Wushuang appeared directly in the secret lair of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance around the 9 realms of the Golden Crow. After that, Jian Wushuang spent some sacred elixirs and obtained an intelligence report. This intelligence report was about the changes that had occurred in the years since Jian Wushuang left the 9 realms of the Golden Crow. It had been nearly 300 years since Jian Wushuang left the 9 realms of the Golden Crow. These 300 years were a long time for Jian Wushuang in this life. In the vast void, Jian Wushuang flew while carefully reading the piece of information in his hand. As expected, after I left, a large number of mysterious experts arrived, including many principals masters. Looking at the information in his hand, Jian Wushuang secretly praised. In order to get Ling Rushuang back from the Supreme Emotion Valley, he had used his last trump card, the life level pressure, and even used the heaven-cleaving skill to kill several disciples of the Supreme Emotion Valley at the true saint level. However, because of this, he was targeted by the power of the will of heaven. If not for Taoist Xianshen's help in secret and the teleportation token he had obtained from the secret realm, he would not have been able to escape that day. After he left, a large number of top experts from the third heaven arrived. According to the information provided by the Heaven-Slaying Alliance, there were many experts who had arrived. They searched wantonly and almost turned the entire 9 realms of the Golden Crow upside down, especially the places that Jian Wushuang had been to and the Pill Sun sacred world where he was born. They searched the entire place several times. Moreover, anyone who had a certain connection with Jian Wushuang had been interrogated, but in the end, they still could not find any trace of Jian Wushuang. Not only the 9 realms of the Golden Crow but also a large number of surrounding territories had also been searched by those experts. However, after searching for more than 100 years without any news, those experts still left. By now, the 9 realms of the Golden Crow had calmed down again. Humph, although the information from the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance says that all the experts have left, I'm afraid that it's not absolute. If I'm not wrong, although the experts have left on the surface, I'm afraid that there will still be a few experts left in the dark. However, they won't be searching as recklessly as before. Instead, they will go into hiding and wait for me to appear, Jian Wushuang said with a cold snort. He knew very well how terrifying his enemies were: the 3 great Saint Realm experts, the 4 great divine clans, and the 8 directions celestial sect. How terrifying were any of them? Any one of them was enough to shake the entire Divine Beginning realm. Such a super force had countless experts under their command, and their desire to kill him was even more intense. Even though they had searched for hundreds of years without finding any trace of him, these forces would never give up. They would definitely be willing to let some experts stay here and wait for tens of thousands of years. They would be willing to wait for hundreds of thousands of years. After all, these super forces should not lack experts. As for the will of the heavenly Tao, Jian Wushuang could not help looking up. Although the world seemed calm, Jian Wushuang knew that the power of the will of the heavenly Tao in this territory was much stronger than before. As expected, the will of the heavenly Tao had been keeping an eye on this territory. He had just stepped into this territory, so it was not a big deal. However, once he fought in this territory and revealed his powerful strength or revealed his trump card, the power of the will of the heavenly Tao would immediately be sensed. The experts hiding in this territory would definitely come to kill him at the first moment. Fortunately, my purpose of returning to the 9 realms of the Golden Crow is only for the opportunity in the secret realm. I don't want to have any friction or fight with others. At most, I just want to walk around. As long as I don't make a move, The power of the will of heaven and the experts hiding in the 9 realms of the Golden Crow will never know that I have returned. Jian Wushuang smiled slightly, put on a strange smile. Chapter 30-34. Entered the secret manual again the 9 realms of the Golden Crow. A total of 9 realms. The heavenly curve world. Inside a towering hall in the middle of a densely packed group of buildings made up of countless palaces and pavilions. Supervisor Xiao, my palace master, said that this conflict is purely caused by the Sword Alliance taking the initiative to stir up trouble. That's why the Heavenly Void Alliance retaliated directly. Even if your people were all killed by the Heavenly Void Alliance, it's their own fault. However, Supervisor Xiao, you've now gathered an army at the border of our Heavenly Void world and made an aggressive stance. But don't tell me that the Sword Alliance wants to start a war with our Heavenly Void Palace? A brown-haired elder with a childlike face stood in the hall. His expression was cold and filled with anger, and his words were loud and clear. Beside him were many experts from the Sword Alliance. They looked at the white-haired elder with a childlike face with ice-cold eyes, and some of them even carried killing intent. At the top of the great hall, a woman in purple armor stood there. This woman's appearance was extremely beautiful, but she was extremely cold and arrogant. Her eyes were cold and did not contain the slightest bit of sympathy. There was also an ice-cold and murderous aura between her brows. Yes, it was the murderous aura. This murderous aura was very strong, and everyone in the hall could clearly feel it. However, what was surprising was that the aura on this woman's body was not very strong. She had barely reached the level of a divine master. The people below were all great divine masters and above. However, it was this kind of woman that emitted the murderous aura that caused many great divine master-level experts below to not even dare to raise their heads. Starting a war? So what if I want to start a war? The voice of the woman in purple armor was ice-cold. It reverberated throughout this palace. Go back and tell the Heavenly Void Palace Lord that I need him to give me an explanation for this matter. Also, I don't have that much patience. 3 months later, if he doesn't give me an explanation, the army of experts from my Sword Alliance will directly cross the border and enter the Heavenly Void Palace's territory. Supervisor Xiao, aren't you going too far? What kind of status does my palace master have? Why would he give you an explanation? That white-haired elder with a childlike face shouted in a low voice. Your palace master's status? Hee. Back then when my young master was around, your palace master didn't even dare to appear in front of my young master. With just a word from young master, that Heavenly Void Palace master didn't even dare to utter a fart. Now that my young master has left, he immediately jumped up. What a joke! What a joke! Listen carefully. Even if my young master is no longer around, the Sword Alliance is still not something that any Tom, Dick, or Harry can easily bully. At the very least, a mere Heavenly Void Palace master does not have the qualifications to do so. The purple-armored woman shouted in a low voice. You! The white-haired elder pointed at the purple-armored woman. His eyes were burning with anger, but it was not good for him to flare up. Blood lamp, chase this old thing out. If he dares to say any more nonsense on the way, kill him immediately and send his head back to the Heavenly Void Palace Master, the purple-armored woman shouted. Yes. Divine Master Blood Lamp immediately walked up from the Great Hall and chased the white-haired elder out. The white-haired elder did not dare to get angry again, afraid that Divine Master Blood Lamp would really kill him. The other experts in the hall reluctantly raised their heads to look at the purple-armored woman, but they quickly lowered their heads. Obviously, they were all in awe of the purple-armored woman. Although the scene just now happened in the hall, it was witnessed by one person from beginning to end. This person was Jian Wushuang. He was in the void not far from the buildings, and his soul power had already covered this place. Xen, this girl is really good. Jian Wushuang secretly praised her. The purple-armored woman in the hall with great majesty and killing intent was his maid, Xiao Tiexin. He had killed Realm Lord Tianxiu and occupied the Tianxiu world. Then he moved the Sword Alliance he created to this place. Under his tyrannical methods, the Heaven Curve world completely respected the Sword Alliance. After that, there was a huge change and he had no choice but to leave the Golden Crow 9 realms. When he left, he also sent a message to Xiao Tiexin, telling him a few things. After that, he did not know what happened. But now, it seemed that Xiao Tiexin's methods were extremely powerful. Even without his deterrence, he still managed the Sword Alliance and the entire Heaven Curve world in an orderly manner. The experts in the Heaven Curve world were filled with reverence toward him. The Sword Alliance was even more powerful because of the corpse puppet army that he had left behind. The only thing that it lacked was probably that there was no immortal saint in charge of it. However, the Golden Crow 9 realms had the rules set by Bone Emperor, so no one dared to violate them. It was very difficult for the forces of the other realms to invade the Heaven Curve world. For example, the Heaven Void Palace would be defeated this time. Xander is probably more skillful than Yin Suer of the Red Stone Castle, Jian Wushuang thought. He only came here to understand the current situation of the Sword Alliance, but he did not show up and did not send a message to Xiao Tiexin and the others. Xiao Tiexin and the others did not know that he had returned. After all, when those mysterious experts from the third firmament had descended, some of those experts had looked for Xiao Tiexin and the experts under him. If nothing went wrong, Xiao Tiexin and the others must have been soul-searched by someone with powerful means and all their memories had been read. Only when they were certain that Xiao Tiexin and the others did not know his location, could those experts let them off. However, they probably let them go to catch a big fish. If Jian Wushuang's guess was correct, Xiao Tiexin and the Divine Masters under the Sword Alliance who were close to Jian Wushuang must have left a special mark on their bodies. Once Jian Wushuang appeared in front of them, the mark would be triggered. The experts hiding in the 9 realms of the Golden Crow would immediately detect him and come to kill him as soon as possible. Therefore, it was impossible for Jian Wushuang to contact Xiao Tiexin and the others, let alone appear in front of them. After having a certain understanding of the Sword Alliance, Jian Wushuang returned to the Pill Sun Sacred World. The Pill Sun Sacred World did not change much. Jian Wushuang only took a look at Crimson Rock Castle, and then he went straight to the Secret Realm. The entrance to the Secret Realm was here. It was not Jian Wushuang's first time here, so he was naturally familiar with it. Soon, he opened the passage of the Secret Realm and entered the Secret Realm. Entering the Secret Realm and breaking through the obstacles in front of him, Jian Wushuang arrived at the true core of the Secret Realm in less than 15 minutes. At the same time, he saw the spirit of the Secret Realm again. Chapter 30-35. The probability was low, Elder Gu. Jian Wushuang looked at the plain-clothed elder in front of him with a humble expression. You're here. Elder Gu also looked at Jian Wushuang with a smile on his face. You must have just become an immortal saint, right? Yes. Jian Wushuang nodded. According to what I said, I came to the Secret Realm as soon as I became an immortal saint. I just don't know if I have a chance to get the opportunity left by the Master of the Secret Realm. The opportunity left by Master can only be obtained by completely passing the test set by him. The minimum threshold of this test is the Immortal Saint. You've just barely met the requirement to accept the test. As for whether you can pass it, I don't know, Elder Gu said. Elder Gu admired Jian Wushuang very much. Back then, Jian Wushuang had shown extraordinary skills and talent in the Secret Realm. Some of his skills even made Elder Gu astonished. For example, Jian Wushuang's soul had been killed 6 or 7 times in a space in order to get the corpse puppet army to accept the test. In the end, he was still alive and well. Elder Gu knew that Jian Wushuang was extraordinary and had great secrets. Therefore, he hoped that Jian Wushuang could pass the test left by his master and inherit his master's legacy. However, whether he could really succeed or not, it depended on Jian Wushuang's ability. How about this? Elder Gu waved his hand. A figure suddenly appeared in front of Jian Wushuang. It was a bald man who was more than 2 meters tall and as strong as a hill. This bald man was lifeless. He was obviously a corpse puppet, but his aura was very impressive. He had reached the level of a 3rd-level true saint. Before you really go to the master's test, you should fight with this corpse puppet. If you can't defeat it, you should cultivate for a while before coming back, said Elder Gu. I understand. Jian Wushuang nodded slightly and immediately looked at the corpse puppet. "Let's do it," Elder Gu said indifferently. As soon as the corpse puppet next to him received his order, it instantly turned into a flowing light and flashed out. A golden axe appeared in the corpse puppet's hand. The corpse puppet held the axe with both hands at the same time. A streak of golden light flashed out, which was extremely majestic and domineering. It whistled and slashed toward Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang's Blood Mountain sword appeared in his hands immediately. Without any fancy moves, the blade of the sword directly smashed toward the golden light with astonishing divine power. Clang! A low sound of metal colliding rang out, and the golden light dimmed. Under the pressure of Jian Wushuang's terrifying power, the golden axe in the corpse puppet's hand was directly thrown away, and its entire body was instantly pushed back. In just one exchange, the corpse puppet, which had reached the level of a rank 3 true saint, had been completely defeated. "You defeated this corpse puppet cleanly." Elder Gu nodded slightly, but he frowned slightly. "Elder Gu, what do you think?" Jian Wushuang looked over. "Your strength is indeed good, but if I'm not wrong, the reason why you were able to defeat this corpse puppet so easily was because of your divine power, which is much stronger than that of an ordinary rank 3 true saint. In other words, your strength is only strong, but in other aspects, although it's very good, it's not ridiculously strong," Elder Gu said. Jian Wushuang directly admitted this. Indeed, his strength was mainly reflected in his strength and power. Apart from his strength and power, his other aspects were similar to those of the top geniuses in the divine beginning world. It's impossible to pass the test left by Master if you only have strong strength and power, Elder Gu said in a deep voice. The test Master left behind is very special. In the test, no matter how strong your power is, it's useless. Master's test is purely based on your comprehension of the principles and the Tao. Not to mention your power, even if you know many secret arts and special techniques, you won't be able to use them during the test. Therefore, the chances of you succeeding in the test left by Master are very low. What? Jian Wushuang's expression changed slightly. It was purely a test of comprehension of principles and Tao. Power was useless? After all, he had just reached the immortal saint realm and his strength was still in the explosive stage. His comprehension of principles and Tao could be greatly improved at this level. In other words, his strength had not reached the limit of this level. Under such circumstances, it was obviously very disadvantageous for him to pass the test left by the Master of the Secret Realm. It is indeed very unlikely for you to pass the test left by Master. However, Master has already set a rule that the same cultivator can challenge the test 3 times. Since you are here today, you can try it first. Even if you fail, you will at least have a certain understanding of the test and have a good idea of it. In the future, when you come to challenge me for the second time, you will be more confident, Elder Gu said. I see. Jian Wushuang understood. In that case, you'll give it a try today. There was a hint of anticipation in Jian Wushuang's eyes. He really wanted to know what kind of test the owner of this secret realm, a principal master who could open a great secret realm, had left behind. A burst of majestic divine power condensed in the void in front of Jian Wushuang, and in the blink of an eye, it formed a dark tunnel. Enter through this passage and you'll be in the trial ground. I'll tell you the content of the trial when you get there, Elder Gu said. Jian Wushuang nodded. He took a look at the dark passage in front of him and took a deep breath. Without much hesitation, he stepped into the passage. With a flash of light, Jian Wushuang appeared in a vast world. In the center of this world stood a towering mountain that was hundreds of thousands of feet tall. This mountain gave Jian Wushuang a feeling of vastness and even a sense of fear. Little guy, the mountain you see now is called D Mountain. Master once moved to this secret realm by great means. Elder Gus's voice came from the void, and a faint figure appeared there. D Mountain? Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows and looked at the huge mountain in front of him. He had noticed that D Mountain was very different from an ordinary mountain at first glance. Chapter 3036. D Mountain is very special. Elder Gus's leisurely voice came from the void next to him. This D mountain is completely covered by a special restriction. Cultivators, no matter who steps on the D mountain, will immediately be restricted by the restriction. The power they can use is at most at the level of an ordinary first-level true saint. Even if your realm has already surpassed that of a first-level true saint, or if you have secret techniques that can increase the power of your divine power or special techniques, once you reach the D mountain, these secret techniques will not be able to be used. On D mountain, the only things you can use are the principles and Tao, as well as the various unique skills you created. D mountain is divided into 3 levels, namely the foot of the mountainside, and the mountaintop. Each level has 3 gatekeepers. What you need to do is to start from the foot of the mountain, then climb to the mountaintop and reach the top. That's enough. After hearing Elder Gus' words, Jian Wushuang moved. There are gatekeepers at the foot of the mountainside, and the top of the mountain. Does this mean that I will experience 3 trials in total? And it seems that these 3 trials will become more difficult as time goes on, Jian Wushuang thought to himself. Let's begin. After Elder Gu finished speaking, the rest was left to Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang took a deep breath and appeared at the foot of the mountain. As soon as he arrived, he saw 3 figures standing quietly at the foot of the mountain. They were a black-clothed woman, a cold-looking elder, and a middle-aged man with red hair. Their expressions were cold and emotionless. Is this my opponent at the foot of the mountain? Jian Wushuang's eyes focused. Challenger, defeat us and you can go to the mountainside, the red-haired middle-aged man said coldly. As soon as he said this, the red-haired middle-aged man immediately moved. He rushed toward Jian Wushuang like a ball of hot flame. The red-haired middle-aged man wore a pair of red fists and his body was full of murderous aura. This murderous aura immediately swept toward Jian Wushuang. At the same time, the black-clothed woman and the cold-faced elder also made corresponding movements. The black-clothed woman directly merged into the surrounding void and completely disappeared. As for the cold-faced elder, a strange light flashed in his eyes. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The world in front of Jian Wushuang completely changed. He was originally taking the test at the foot of D Mountain, but in the blink of an eye, he found himself in a dark void. No, it was not a dark void. To be more precise, it was a dark prison. The dark prison had completely imprisoned him. There were even huge chains that completely bound him, making him unable to move. There were people around him who held knives and swords and wanted to cut his flesh. Illusion. Jian Wushuang's face was cold. Break. His body only shook for a moment, and a terrifying willpower burst out. The surrounding dark space immediately collapsed. You actually broke my illusion in an instant? The cold elder looked at Jian Wushuang in surprise, and then snorted coldly. He pointed his right hand from afar, and 6 sharp dark spikes turned into 6 pitch-black beams of light, piercing through the void and shooting toward Jian Wushuang's head. Each of the 6 dark spikes contained a strong impact power. Before the 6 dark spikes appeared in front of Jian Wushuang, the red-haired middle-aged man's fist had already arrived. His fist was hot and violent, like a raging flame, directly covering Jian Wushuang. Humph! Jian Wushuang snorted and suddenly brandished his blood mountain sword. His divine power exploded the moment he brandished it, but at the same time, his face darkened. As expected, no matter how much I use my divine power, the power I can release is only at the level of a rank 1 true saint. I can't use any means to amplify the power. Even the boundless sword tree, which is 6,600 meters tall, can't amplify the power of my swordsmanship. Jian Wushuang frowned. However, he could not use all his strength. The 3 people guarding at the foot of the mountain could only activate the power of a rank 1 true saint. Under the same power, Jian Wushuang was not afraid of them at all. Die! Jian Wushuang suddenly let out a low shout, and a terrible evil aura suddenly burst out. Space-time sword art, evil Xiang. It was the most terrifying move that Jian Wushuang had created. A deep, angry roar suddenly came from the heaven and earth. The shocking sword light that Jian Wushuang waved turned into a complete and huge ancient exotic beast in the blink of an eye, and fiercely smashed into the red-haired middle-aged man's fist. The The sound of bones cracking was heard. The red-haired middle-aged man let out a shrill scream, and his body was sent flying heavily. Suddenly, a cold black light appeared behind Jian Wushuang without any warning. The black light was cold, dazzling, and full of killing intent. However, Jian Wushuang only slightly moved his body, and silver light burst out. Swish! The dark dagger cut through the void, but it did not have the time to cut through the corner of Jian Wushuang's clothes. Jian Wushuang had already appeared beside the black-clothed woman. A sword light was extremely fast and directly slashed at the black-clothed woman. It was much faster and more violent than when the black-clothed woman stabbed out with the dagger. The sword light directly passed through the divine body of the black-clothed woman. Then, Jian Wushuang's body burst forth again. He easily dodged the 6 dark spikes and chopped off the cold elder's head. In just a moment, 2 of the 3 people who surrounded Jian Wushuang were killed and 1 was injured. Jian Wushuang naturally passed the test at the foot of the mountain. After passing the test, Jian Wushuang immediately went to the mountainside. As for the black-clothed woman and the cold-faced elder, their divine bodies had recovered. In the void not far from D Mountain, the elder of the secret realm, Spirit Valley, had been standing there quietly watching. He had witnessed everything that had happened at the foot of the mountain. When he saw that Jian Wushuang had easily defeated the 3 people at the foot of the mountain, he could not help nodding slightly. His comprehension of the space-time principle is not bad. He has reached the limit of the 2nd stage, which is considered good among rank 3 true saints. The swordsmanship he created is at the peak of rank 3. This kind of comprehension, it should not be difficult to pass the tests at the foot of the mountain or at the mountainside. What is difficult is the mountaintop. Elder Gu knew very well that the 3 tests of D Mountain were more and more difficult, especially the trial on the mountain top, which was the most difficult of the 3 trials. In the primordial divine world, ordinary geniuses could not pass the trial on the mountain top. Only the top super geniuses could. As for Jian Wushuang, Elder Gu did not think that Jian Wushuang could pass the trial on the mountain top. Chapter 3037. The Mountaintop D Mountain on the mountainside. There were also 3 gatekeepers on the mountainside, just like at the foot of the mountain. One of them was good at close combat, and their attacks were tyrannical. The other was good at speed, and good at sneak attacks and assassinations. The last person knew how to use soul attacks, and his soul techniques were incomparably powerful. The difference was that the 3 gatekeepers on the mountainside were much more powerful than the 3 at the foot of the mountain. Get lost. Jian Wushuang's voice was cold. He slashed out his blood mountain sword and performed the evil Xiang move. The terrifying sword light collided with the sledgehammer wielded by a strong young man. Although he had the upper hand, the strong young man was not defeated by him. He was not completely crushed. Next to him, an evil-looking young man slashed at Jian Wushuang's head again and again. The last gatekeeper, who was not far away, used his soul attack to affect Jian Wushuang. The 3 of them worked well together, which put a lot of pressure on Jian Wushuang. However, at this moment, Jian Wushuang finally burst out. His silver light movement suddenly burst out, and his speed completely surpassed the fastest of the 3. He directly appeared in front of the gatekeeper who had used soul attack. Then he used Star Dream, which was so fast, the gatekeeper did not have time to react and was killed on the spot. After one of the 3 was killed, the other 2 obviously could not defeat Jian Wushuang, so they were soon defeated by Jian Wushuang one by one. They passed the mountainside. Finally, Jian Wushuang arrived at the top of D Mountain. There were also 3 gatekeepers on the mountaintop. They were a stocky elder and 2 women, 1 black and 1 white. Master left D Mountain behind and set 3 tests. You passed the 2 tests at the foot and the mountainside. This proves that your talent is not weak. Even in the vast divine beginning world, you can be considered a first-class genius. But that's it, the stocky elder said. You'll never pass the test of the 3 of us, the white-robed woman also said. How would I know if I don't try? Jian Wushuang just smiled faintly. Soon he fought with the 3 gatekeepers. After the real battle, Jian Wushuang understood why Elder Gu had said that the probability of him passing the test was very low. It was because the test on the mountaintop was too difficult. Although the 3 gatekeepers on the mountaintop had also displayed the power of a rank 1 true saint, each of them had reached the peak of a rank 3 true saint in terms of their comprehension of the rules and Tao. Jian Wushuang's comprehension of the space-time principles and sword principle was only at the peak of a rank 3 true saint. Any one of the 3 could fight him head-on, and it was hard to predict who would win. But now it was a 3-on-1 fight. The 3 of them were working well together. Under such circumstances, how could he be a match for them? Jian Wushuang held on for a while, but he was defeated in the end. As soon as he was defeated, Jian Wushuang was immediately sent out of D Mountain. I failed. Jian Wushuang returned to the hall with a sigh. Little guy, how do you feel? Elder Gu looked at him with interest. Any one of the 3 gatekeepers on the top of the mountain is equal to me. If the 3 of them work together, I'm no match for them, Jian Wushuang said. I've already said that it's very unlikely for you to pass the test left by Master. It's true, but don't take it too seriously. I can see that you've just reached the immortal saint level, and your strength is still in an explosive stage. You still have a lot of room to improve your strength at the level of a rank 1 true saint. Judging from your fight with the 3 gatekeepers on the top of D Mountain, you are not too far away from passing the test. As long as you can make great progress in the future, you should be able to pass it. Elder Gu smiled and said, Indeed. Jian Wushuang nodded solemnly. It was true that he could not pass D Mountain's test, but he was not too far away from passing the test. He was close to passing it. With such a small gap, as long as he made some progress in his strength, he should be able to pass it. Now, under the situation where I can't fully utilize my strength, I can't deal with the joint attack of the 3 gatekeepers. If I want to defeat the 3 of them, I can only make a big breakthrough in the rules or sword principle. Among the rules and sword principle, his comprehension of reincarnation principles was even lower than the space-time principles. Even if he improved to the same level as the space-time principles, the increase in his battle strength was minimal. He was afraid that he would still be unable to pass the test on the top of the mountain. As for the sword principle, although his immeasurable sword tree was already 6,600 feet tall, his understanding of the sword principle was not very high. However, it was very difficult to improve the sword principle. In a short time, Jian Wushuang could not make great progress in his sword principle. The only thing he could improve now was the space-time principle. Space-time principle, right. Jian Wushuang's eyes suddenly lit up. Then he flipped his hand and took out a golden stone the size of an infant's fist. Looking at the golden stone, Jian Wushuang's eyes shone with a strange light. This golden stone was the strange stone that contained the space-time divine principle. Jian Wushuang had stepped into the space-time temple from this golden stone and learned the heaven-designated skill. However, the heaven-designated skill was only one of the first moves of the space-time divine principle. Jian Wushuang knew that there were 2 moves of the space-time divine principle contained in this golden stone alone. However, because his comprehension of the space-time principles was too low, he was not qualified to learn the second move. Now, his comprehension of the space-time rules had greatly improved. Reaching the limit of the second stage, he could try to learn the second move of the space-time divine skill. Most importantly, when Jian Wushuang was comprehending the first move of the space-time divine skill, the heaven-designated skill, his comprehension of the space-time principle had also greatly improved. Now, his comprehension of the space-time principle had reached the limit of the second stage. He could use the second move of the space-time divine skill to improve his comprehension of the space-time principles so that his comprehension of the space-time principles could reach the third stage. Once his comprehension of the space-time principles reached the third stage, he would have the confidence to pass the test on the top of D Mountain. Thinking of this, the light in his eyes grew brighter. Chapter 3038, One Finger Oblivion. Elder Gu, I want a place where I can cultivate and comprehend in peace, Jian Wushuang said. Sure, this secret realm is very big, and there is no other cultivator besides you. I can arrange a place for you to ensure that no one will disturb you, Elder Gu said, but I have to remind you that any cultivator only has 3 chances to enter D Mountain. You've already used it once before, and there are only 2 chances left. You must seize these 2 chances. You must be at least 70 to 80% sure that you can go again. I understand. Jian Wushuang nodded. Soon, Elder Gu arranged a separate dark void for Jian Wushuang. The dark void was boundless. Jian Wushuang sat alone with his legs crossed. In front of him was a golden stone the size of a baby's fist. Let's begin. Taking a deep breath, Jian Wushuang sank his consciousness into the golden stone. Buzz buzz buzz. The scene immediately began to change. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Waves of terrifying space-time storms filled every corner of the world. The killing power contained in these space-time storms was ridiculously strong. Jian Wushuang even suspected that even a principal's master would be torn into pieces by this space-time storm, let alone a true saint. He reckoned that he would be torn into pieces by this space-time storm. In many places in the space-time storm, space-time seemed to have completely frozen and stopped. Pieces of space continued to break and regenerate. In the center of this space-time storm, there was an extremely tall golden palace door. This palace door was magnificent and majestic, but the inside of the palace door was mysterious. What he could sense was still the vast and boundless power of spacetime. It was as if it led to another spacetime. Jian Wushuang was standing under the golden palace gate. Here I am again. Seeing the spacetime palace gate in front of him, Jian Wushuang's heart was still filled with many waves. The words that he had heard before were still echoing in his ears. Cross the spacetime gate, enter my spacetime palace, and be a member of my divine palace. Jian Wushuang had stepped through the time-space palace gate before he was able to comprehend the first move of the time-space divine skill, the heaven-designated skill. But now, taking a deep breath, Jian Wushuang stepped into the palace gate again without any hesitation. As soon as he entered the palace gate, he came to a vast and boundless void. In the void, a tall figure stood there. The tall figure was 3 meters tall and wore a simple but clean white robe. His figure was obscure and his face could not be seen. He stood in the middle of the void with his hands behind his back. It's him again. Jian Wushuang, you are not unfamiliar with this tall figure. When he was comprehending the heaven-designated skill, he saw the tall figure personally use the heaven-designated skill to imprison many experts, causing them to be stuck in time and space for a long time and unable to recover. If Jian Wushuang was right, the tall figure was probably the creator of the time and space divine skill, the temporal temple master. Now, Jian Wushuang saw the tall figure again, standing in front of a star. It was a huge star that was much larger than the magic note divine kingdom. Such a star was simply a colossus. Jian Wushuang also sensed the aura of countless cultivators in the star. They were all very powerful, including many immortal saints. Jian Wushuang even faintly sensed the aura of the principal's master. What is he going to do? As a bystander, Jian Wushuang stared at the tall figure quietly. Finally, the tall figure moved. He still did not move much. He just slowly extended his right hand and pointed in the direction of the giant star. Yes, it was the simplest finger. It was exactly the same as when he used the heaven-designated skill. However, under this finger, an obscure power of space-time rules suddenly swept out. In front of them, on the giant star, a terrifying space-time storm appeared out of thin air. The space-time storm completely covered the entire star, and a large number of space-time blades crazily rampaged and strangled everything. Then, the giant star, including the countless cultivators on the star, began to be annihilated at a speed visible to the naked eye. It was annihilated, completely annihilated. Whether it was the giant star, the cultivators in the star, or the few hidden principles masters that Jian Wushuang sensed, there was no room for struggle. In the blink of an eye, they were all annihilated. The giant star completely disappeared, and the world returned to peace as if nothing had happened. Jian Wushuang was completely stunned. After a while, a vast amount of information flooded into his mind. The second move of the space-time divine art, one-finger void annihilation. One-finger void annihilation. Space-time annihilation. Jian Wushuang was still standing in the void, but his body was faintly trembling. It was too terrifying. The scene just now was too terrifying. It should be known that the giant star was much larger than a magic note divine kingdom. Such a huge star, the tall figure only needed one finger to completely annihilate it. Such a terrifying method was simply unbelievable. Space-time annihilation, yes, the tall figure just used the space-time annihilation which can be used in the third stage of the space-time principles. Jian Wushuang was still recalling the scene just now. The space-time storm appeared and annihilated everything in the world, and the method was obviously space-time annihilation. According to Jian Wushuang's understanding of the space-time principles, each level of the space-time principles had a new ability. The first level of the space-time principles could condense a space-time illusion body. The second level could control the space-time blade. The third level allowed one to perform the space-time annihilation. The fourth level allowed one to perform teleportation. Jian Wushuang had not yet reached the third level of the space-time annihilation, but he had clearly used the space-time annihilation with his finger earlier. He had used the space-time annihilation in a special way to its fullest and most perfect effect. This move was terrifying in terms of its destructive power alone. It's just right that my space-time principles has advanced one step further, which is to control the space-time annihilation move, and the one-finger void annihilation move is to perfectly utilize the space-time annihilation move. I can completely comprehend this move while controlling the space-time annihilation, and I can easily step into the third level of the space-time principles. Jian Wushuang's eyes were shining. Chapter 3039. The third stage of the space-time principles in the dark void. Jian Wushuang was very excited. With the gold-splitting secret manual in hand, I have already dissected the first 3 stages of the space-time principles in great detail. It's still very helpful to me. With the 3 heaven-sealing scrolls in hand, I can improve my comprehension speed by many times. Now, I can comprehend the space-time annihilation from the space-time annihilation skill of one finger. With so many cultivation resources, it won't take an ordinary person long to make a breakthrough. As for me, let's see how long it will take. Jian Wushuang's eyes were filled with anticipation, then he began to meditate carefully. Time began to pass slowly. 1 day, 1 month, 1 year. After only 1 year, Jian Wushuang's eyes were still open in the dark void. He stared at the void in front of him. With a move of his consciousness, the power of the space-time rule suddenly burst out. Whoosh, a large amount of the power of the space-time principles condensed in the void, and in the blink of an eye, it had formed countless space-time blades. Each of these space-time blades was extremely powerful and contained an astonishing killing power. However, under Jian Wushuang's control, the space-time blades immediately began to evolve. Boom! A space-time storm rose. The space-time storm cut through the void like a blade, and then it began to destroy. In the blink of an eye, all the matter in that small piece of void had been completely destroyed, leaving no trace. The third stage of the space-time principles, space-time destruction, is done. Jian Wushuang's eyes sparkled. Just as he had expected, he had the golden-splitting secret manual which perfectly dissected the first 3 stages of the space-time principles, and he also had 3 heaven-sealing scrolls which could speed up his comprehension of the space-time principle. Finally, there was the space-time annihilation finger skill which could be used as a reference. With these 3 great opportunities in front of him, it provided him with the fastest way. His comprehension of the space-time principle had already reached the limit of the second stage and was only 1 step away from the third stage. But now, this 1 step was directly crossed in the short span of a year. In the third stage of the space-time principles, the space-time annihilation had been controlled, which meant that Jian Wushuang's comprehension of the rule had completely entered a new level. Especially in the use of the space-time principles, it would be much stronger than before. Let's try it first. Jian Wushuang stood up and looked at the endless dark void in front of him. In the next moment, his body suddenly moved. His body instantly burst out, but he had already appeared at the end of the dark void and then returned to his original place. This process had been completed in a flash. My speed is so much faster than before? Jian Wushuang muttered. After his comprehension of the space-time principle was greatly improved, he could control the power of the space-time principle more easily. The space-time around him had less influence on him, so his speed naturally increased. Just now, Jian Wushuang had just made a simple move, but his speed was definitely several times faster than before he broke through. I haven't used my movement skill just now. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands, and then his body moved again. This time, he directly used the silver light movement skill. Swish, 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 swish. One after another, silver phantoms shuttled back and forth in the dark void. Their figures were so ghostly that no one could catch a trace of them. Let alone an ordinary person, even a genuine rank 3 true saint would not be able to catch a trace of Jian Wushuang here. He was afraid that he would not be able to catch a glimpse of Jian Wushuang's actual figure. Jian Wushuang's figure once again returned to the distance. When I used the silver light movement technique, my speed should be about 6 times faster than before, Jian Wushuang thought to himself. Only 6 times? Jian Wushuang frowned. With a simple sweep, he found that his speed had not only increased by 6 times, but should have increased by 7 times or even 8 times. But now, when he used the movement technique, his speed had only increased by 6 times. This meant, my movement technique is not perfect enough. There is still a lot of room for improvement, Jian Wushuang said. Movement technique was different from an absolute art. An absolute art was created by combining the rule and sword principle. But movement technique relied purely on the rule. When Jian Wushuang created the silver light movement technique, his comprehension of the space-time principle was only at the limit of the 2nd stage. But now, his comprehension of the space-time principles had reached the 3rd stage and reached a new level. At this time, he was looking at the silver light movement technique, which had many shortcomings and could be improved. No rush, let's test the power of the sword skill first. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly and then took out his blood mountain sword. In the dark void, Jian Wushuang began to display his sword skill. First, he simply used the power of space-time principles to display his swordsmanship, feeling the changes in the speed and power of his swordsmanship. Then, he displayed the 2 ultimate skills, Evil Xiang and Star Dream one by one. The result was obvious. As he improved the space-time principles, his swordsmanship improved greatly in both speed and power. For example, in terms of power, his Evil Xiang should be 3 times more powerful than before. Do not underestimate the power of 3 times, because it was just an absolute art. If Jian Wushuang used all his divine power and all kinds of techniques at the same time, his overall strength would be greatly improved. As for Star Dream, it did not focus on power, so it would not be much stronger. However, its speed was greatly increased, becoming faster and faster at the same time. The tearing and cutting ability of the sword edge had also increased by a large margin. In general, Jian Wushuang's swordsmanship had also improved to a new level. In addition, after he had reached the 3rd stage of comprehending the space-time principles and had mastered the space-time annihilation, he could barely perform the 2nd move of the space-time divine skill, the one-finger void annihilation skill. I wonder how powerful the one-finger void annihilation skill will be? Jian Wushuang was full of expectation. He took a deep breath, looked at the void in front of him, and then slowly raised his right hand. Just like the tall figure in the golden stone, he slowly raised his right hand and pointed at the void in front of him. This finger seemed ordinary, but the moment it was pointed out, the power of space-time principles burst out. Rumble, a majestic space-time storm appeared out of thin air. Chapter 30-40. Another challenge at D Mountain Walhalla, the space-time storm destroyed everything. Although the space-time storm was not as big as the giant figure in the golden stone picture, it still existed in a vast void, and all the materials in that void were destroyed, all the matter in that void had been annihilated. So powerful! Looking at the completely annihilated void in front of him, Jian Wushuang's eyes sparkled. He could feel that the power of his finger space annihilating skill should be more than 100 times stronger than the space-time annihilation he controlled. In other words, he could control the space-time annihilation only after he had comprehended the space-time rules to the 3rd stage, but after the special application of the space-time divine skill, it was 100 times more powerful. It was too terrifying. I can feel that even if I use my divine power to perform this move, I can easily crush a rank 3 true saint and completely annihilate him. Even his immortal body is useless. Jian Wushuang was shocked. The annihilation of time and space was to completely annihilate an area of time and space. All matter was completely annihilated, including divine power. For an expert of the true saint realm, even if his divine body was destroyed, his divine power could still be regenerated when scattered around. However, this finger annihilation of space could completely annihilate the divine power of this area of time and space. Naturally, it could destroy this true saint directly. This is only the strength of my divine power. If I use many secret skills, the power of my divine power will soar again. Even a rank 4 true saint would not be able to resist this move, Jian Wushuang muttered to himself. The void annihilation technique was too powerful. Jian Wushuang was also shocked. He had only grasped the first step of this technique, and his comprehension of the space-time principles had just reached the third stage. In the future, his comprehension of the space-time principles could continue to improve. He would become more and more familiar with this technique, and when he used it, it would be more powerful. Space-time divine skill, one-finger heaven-designated skill, and now one-finger void annihilation technique. I wonder what kind of supreme existence the space-time temple master who created this divine skill is. Jian Wushuang secretly praised. With the space-annihilating finger skill, he had another trump card in his hand, or even a killer move. Phew! Taking a deep breath, Jian Wushuang gradually calmed down. Now, my comprehension of the space-time principles has improved so much that it has greatly improved my speed and swordsmanship. As for the space-annihilating finger skill, although it is not useful when I go to D Mountain, even without the space-annihilating finger skill, I should have an 80% chance of passing through D Mountain now. If I slightly improve the silver light movement skill that I created so that it can perfectly combine with my speed, then I have a 90% chance of passing through it. Jian Wushuang was quite excited. Immediately, in this dark space, Jian Wushuang began to comprehend and improve his movement skill again. In the dark space, streaks of silver light constantly flickered. This was Jian Wushuang constantly trying to perform his movement skill. While performing it, he constantly discovered his shortcomings and then improved them. With his talent and comprehension of the space-time principles, it was very easy for him to improve his movement technique. It only took him 10 days. After 10 days, Jian Wushuang's silver light movement technique had been improved. Of course, this improvement was only from Jian Wushuang's current point of view. But if his comprehension of the space-time principles improved to a new level in the future, his view of his movement technique would be different. My movement skills have improved. I'm 90% sure that I can pass the D Mountain. I can go now. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands and immediately shouted, "Elder Gu!" A moment later, Jian Wushuang arrived in front of Elder Gu. "Elder Gu, I want to challenge the D Mountain again," Jian Wushuang said directly. "Challenge again? It's only been a year?" Elder Gu frowned slightly. He had warned Jian Wushuang that anyone who tried to challenge D Mountain would only have 3 chances. Jian Wushuang had already used it once, so there were only 2 chances left. For this reason, Elder Gu had specifically reminded Jian Wushuang to be as cautious as possible in the next 2 chances and to try again when he was sure. But now, it had only been a year since he first tried to challenge D Mountain. He came here after a year? Could it be that he had made great progress in this 1 year? "Little guy, how confident are you?" Elder Gu tried to ask. 70 to 80%, Jian Wushuang said. He was being humble. Although he was 90% confident, he only said 70 to 80%. 70 to 80%, I can try. A smile appeared on Elder Gu's face again. Then he waved his hand, and the tunnel leading to D Mountain appeared in front of Jian Wushuang again. "Go in," Elder Gu said. Jian Wushuang also stepped into the tunnel. D Mountain was tall and majestic, which was extremely shocking. Although Jian Wushuang had reached the top of the mountain last time, he still had to start from the foot of the mountain this time. The 3 gatekeepers at the foot of the mountain could not hinder Jian Wushuang at all. In just a moment, Jian Wushuang had reached the top of D Mountain again. On the top of the mountain, the burly elder and the two women, one black and one white, were still standing there, looking at Jian Wushuang calmly. "You're here again," the black-clothed woman said. "It's only been a year since you came here last time. Although Master gave you 3 chances, you didn't take this test seriously. How much progress can you make in just a year? How can you overcome the obstacles of the 3 people?" "Well, no, if we can." Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. "Oh, you're very confident? Then the 3 of us will crush your confidence now." The stocky elder said in a deep voice, "Do it." The stocky elder and the black-clothed woman moved at the same time. As for the white-robed woman, a warm white light emerged from her body and shone toward Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang's consciousness was also affected by the warm white light, but he quickly came back to his senses. As soon as he regained consciousness, he saw the black-robed woman appear behind him. At the same time, a cold blood-red saber light cut toward Jian Wushuang's head from behind. The angle was tricky, and the speed was also very fast. If Jian Wushuang had not broken through the comprehension of the space-time principle before, he would have been a little embarrassed in the face of this saber light. But now... Chapter 3041. Passed under swish. Jian Wushuang's figure had disappeared into thin air. In its place was a strange silver stream of light, followed by a sword light. It was incredibly fast. When the sword light lit up, the black-clothed woman's eyes shrank, and a trace of horror flashed across her face. The sword was so fast that the black-clothed woman did not react at all. The sword light flashed and the black-clothed woman's head flew away. In just one move, the black-clothed woman among the 3 gatekeepers had been killed. Humph! With an angry snort, the stocky elder had already arrived in front of Jian Wushuang. He held a big hammer in each of his hands and his body was covered with a large number of black thunderbolts. It was as if the thunder god had come to the world, and he suddenly attacked Jian Wushuang. Good timing. Jian Wushuang smiled indifferently and threw out his sword with his right hand. At the moment he threw out his sword, a shocking sword essence suddenly burst out. Space-time sword art Shixiang. Bang. A low collision sound was heard. The stocky elder's body suddenly trembled and he immediately retreated in a sorry state. Before Jian Wushuang's comprehension of space-time principles had reached a breakthrough, he had used all of his strength to use Shixiang to clash with the stocky elder. He had barely gained the upper hand. But now, his comprehension of space-time principles had reached the 3rd stage. The power of Jian Wushuang's Shixiang move had increased by 3 times. When the 2 fought again, it was naturally a crushing blow. Die! Jian Wushuang's body flashed and he attacked the last white-robed woman. The white-robed woman used her soul attack and controlled the strange spears to flash toward Jian Wushuang one after another. However, Jian Wushuang easily dodged them. Then, the sword light flashed past the white-robed woman and she was killed. In just a moment, 2 of the 3 gatekeepers were killed, and the burly elder was completely crushed. The result was naturally out. "Boy, congratulations on reaching the top of D Mountain." The burly elder stood aside and watched Jian Wushuang. The divine bodies of the black-robed woman and the white-robed woman, who had been killed by Jian Wushuang, were restored. They looked at Jian Wushuang with a strange look in their eyes. "Thank you." Jian Wushuang smiled indifferently. At this moment, a figure condensed on the top of D Mountain. It was Elder Gu, who had been watching the battle from the side. "Congratulations, little guy." Elder Gu looked at Jian Wushuang with a hint of joy on his face as he said, "It has been a long time since Master left this secret realm. Now, someone can finally pass the test left by Master. Little guy, come with me." Elder Gu waved his hand, and a space passage appeared in the void around D Mountain. Elder Gu led Jian Wushuang directly into the space passage. They were still in the secret realm, but it was still the core and the most important area of the secret realm. They were still in a palace, but the palace was 30,000 feet tall and vast. As soon as Jian Wushuang stepped into the palace, he looked through the void and saw a figure sitting on a lofty throne at the end of the palace. It was a slender, 3-meter-tall, handsome young man. The young man's skin was fair, tender, and even better than many beautiful women. He wore a snow-white velvet coat with golden edges, and his long brown hair fell to his shoulders. He looked lazy, but he had a pair of deep eyes that seemed to contain billions of stars. Above those deep eyes were two sword-shaped eyebrows. These two sword-shaped eyebrows were like two peerless divine swords in a scabbard. As long as they were slightly bunched up, a terrifying sword essence would burst out. The young man sat on the throne lazily. There was no aura emanating from his body, making him look extremely ordinary. However, even though the young man was sitting at the end of the palace, he was still far away from Jian Wushuang. The young man did not even raise his head to look at him. He just sat there. It still made Jian Wushuang feel a trace of respect. Yes, it was respect. It was an instinctive respect for experts. "Little guy, come with me to see Master," Elder Gu said. "Master? Is that the Master of the Secret Realm?" Jian Wushuang was quite excited. He followed Elder Gu and slowly walked toward the palace. After a while, they finally arrived at the center of the palace and in front of the towering throne. As they walked here, the reverence in Jian Wushuang's heart grew stronger and stronger. "Master," Elder Gu said. His voice was gentle, but it was absolutely respectful. On the towering throne, the 3-meter-tall handsome man moved slightly. Then he slowly raised his eyelids. His pitch-black, emotionless eyes looked directly at Elder Gu and Jian Wushuang. The moment Jian Wushuang sensed the handsome man's eyes, his heart turned cold, as if he had completely fallen into an ice cellar. Fortunately, Jian Wushuang had lived for 2 lifetimes and had experienced many storms. In his last life, he had even seen countless top experts. Although those experts were restricted by Heaven and Earth and could not unleash their true strength and power, however, Jian Wushuang had seen some incredible methods. Therefore, although Jian Wushuang was full of awe in front of this handsome man, he did not lose his composure too much. "Heavenly Sword Marquis, greetings, Senior," Jian Wushuang said respectfully. He could see that the handsome man in front of him had died a long time ago, leaving behind only a consciousness incarnation. "Heavenly Sword Marquis?" An ancient and deep voice slowly came out of the handsome man's mouth. "Did you pass the D Mountain test that I left behind?" "Yes." Jian Wushuang nodded. "Master, this little guy is extremely talented and has an extraordinary background," Elder Gu said. "I know." The handsome man nodded. He had created the secret realm himself. Although Elder Gu was in charge of many things in the secret realm, as the master of the secret realm, he knew all the things that had happened in the secret realm. For example, when Jian Wushuang had tried to get the corpse puppet army, the handsome man had seen that his soul had been killed 6 or 7 times in order to survive the test. Once his soul is destroyed, he will definitely die. This is a common thing of the heavenly axiom, but this little guy completely goes against the common knowledge of the heavenly axiom. He is a special anomaly in the heaven and earth, and the heavenly axiom does not allow him to exist. The handsome man glanced at Jian Wushuang with a strange look in his eyes. "In any case, since you have passed the D Mountain test that I left behind, what I left in the secret realm will naturally belong to you." The handsome man's voice rang out slowly. Chapter 3042, Shuebei _. "In any case, since you have passed the D Mountain test I left behind, what I left behind in this secret realm will naturally belong to you." Hearing the handsome man's words, Jian Wushuang was also delighted. This handsome man was a genuine principles master, and he was also a principles master who had opened a secret realm. As far as Jian Wushuang knew, principles masters were superior, but there were differences in strength. Most principles masters who were weaker could not open a secret realm of heaven and earth. Those who could open a secret realm of heaven and earth were definitely the best among principles masters. Moreover, on the way to the depths of the secret realm, he saw a lot of sarcophagi. In addition to many top-notch and invincible immortal saints, there were 2 principles master sarcophagi. The handsome man had also killed the 2 principles masters. To be able to kill principles masters and 2 principles masters at that, one could imagine the strength of the handsome man. Jian Wushuang was naturally eager to get the things left in the secret realm by such a super existence. "Before you get what I left, you must remember my name." My name is Shui Bei and I come from the Divine Ancestor Taoist sect, the bloodline of the Blood Ancestor. The handsome man's voice sounded again. Divine Ancestor Taoist sect? The bloodline of the Blood Ancestor? Jian Wushuang was stunned. He had never heard of the Divine Ancestor Taoist sect or the bloodline of the Blood Ancestor. He had only heard of the Blood Clan, which was one of the 4 great divine clans of the divine beginning world. However, the Blood Clan and the bloodline of the Blood Ancestor were clearly 2 different things. Seeing the confusion on Jian Wushuang's face, Shui Bei asked, "Heavenly Sword Marquis, you haven't left the Endless Territory, have you?" "Yes." Jian Wushuang nodded. He had been born in the Endless Territory. Although he was full of longing and yearning for the vast third heaven, he had never been there before because he was not strong enough. That's right. Born in the Endless Territory, you haven't really explored the third heaven, so your horizons are limited. It's normal that you haven't heard of the Divine Ancestor Taoist sect. Shui Bei said, although you haven't heard of the Divine Ancestor Taoist sect, you can still come into contact with the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance with your strength. I know about the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. I'm now a heaven-level member of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance, Jian Wushuang said. Heaven level? Shui Bei glanced at Jian Wushuang and nodded slightly. The Heaven-Cleaving Alliance is recognized as the most powerful freedom alliance in the divine beginning world. However, there are many powerful freedom alliances in the divine beginning world. There are 3 of them, and the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance is only one of them. 3 freedom alliances? Jian Wushuang's expression changed. The Heaven-Cleaving Alliance is only one of the 3 freedom alliances? Then the other 2 freedom alliances are... The remaining 2 freedom alliances are the Space-Time Temple and the Divine Ancestor Taoist sect, Shui Bei said. Jian Wushuang was stunned. He knew about the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance and the 3 freedom alliances. He also knew about the Space-Time Temple, and it must be related. After all, the 2 space-time divine skills he had obtained from the Golden Stone came from the Space-Time Temple. According to the information in the Golden Stone, he had already entered the Space-Time Gate, so he was a member of the Space-Time Temple. The Space-Time Temple is one of the 3 strongest freedom alliances in the divine beginning world? Jian Wushuang was a little shocked. He had guessed that the Space-Time Temple must be extremely powerful and that the Temple Master who created it must be unfathomable. Now it seemed that it was true. One of the 3 freedom alliances in the divine beginning world was on par with the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. Although the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance was ranked first and recognized as the strongest, the fact that the Space-Time Temple was on par with it was enough to show how terrifying the Space-Time Temple was. This was the case for the Temporal Temple as well as for the Divine Ancestor Taoist sect. Of the 3 great freedom alliances, the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance is the strongest and has the largest number of branches. It is not an exaggeration to say that it has spread to every corner of the divine beginning world. However, the Temporal Temple is different from the Divine Ancestor Taoist sect. The Temporal Temple is the most mysterious and its methods are also very impressive. Most of the powerful warriors within the temple have comprehended the principles of time and space. And these powerful warriors who are proficient in the principles of time and space have used their most powerful methods to create a special patch of time and space, making it difficult for others to find them. Especially the mysterious Temple Master of the Space-Time Temple. His comprehension of the principles of space-time is widely recognized as the #1 person in the divine beginning world. His ability to use space-time is unparalleled, and he is definitely one of the best among the countless cultivators in the entire divine beginning world. Hearing this, Jian Wushuang was shocked, but he was not surprised. The Temple Master of the Space-Time Temple had created the space-time divine skill himself. Jian Wushuang had already experienced how powerful the space-time divine skill was. Finally, it's the Divine Ancestor Taoist sect. The Divine Ancestor Taoist sect is not as extensive. Most of its power is concentrated in the third heaven. Although the Divine Ancestor is the leader of the Divine Ancestor Taoist sect, it has many factions under its command. My Blood Ancestor faction is one of them, Shui Bei said. Senior, with your strength, you should be at the top of the Blood Ancestor faction, right? Jian Wushuang could not help asking. Shui Bei was a powerful principles master who could open a secret realm of heaven and earth. Such a rule master was a peak expert in the entire divine beginning world. Among the factions under the divine ancestor Taoist sect, he should be ranked among the top. You can say that. Shui Bei nodded slightly. I belong to the blood ancestors lineage. There are more than 10 masters of principles, but there are only 2 who can match my strength. Back then, I was a great general in the blood ancestors lineage. As Shui Bei spoke, his gaze became misty. It was as if he had recalled everything he had experienced over the long years. I once fought my way into a sect alone, killed 4 rule masters, and left unhurriedly. I was lucky enough to accept the invitation to participate in the Heaven Lake banquet where the top experts gathered. I once participated in the world-ending war with the experts of the blood ancestors bloodline. I was even lucky enough to go to the universe battlefield with the blood ancestor. Shui Bei's voice was rather ethereal. Hearing his words, Jian Wushuang's expression was very strange. The Heaven Lake feast? The world-ending war from countless years ago? The universe battlefield? Jian Wushuang murmured. He was very unfamiliar with these things. However, he also knew that he was only an immortal saint and had stayed in the endless territories. He had not been to the third heaven, the core of the divine beginning world. It was normal that he did not know many things. However, Shui Bei's words still made Jian Wushuang's blood boil and his heart filled with yearning. After a long time, Shui Bei seemed to calm down. Forget it, it's all in the past. His voice also became low. Chapter 3043, 4 Opportunities, First Half, Shui Bei's expression was obviously a bit desolate. Right, no matter how brilliant and arrogant he used to be, he still died in the end. What was left now was only a trace of consciousness. Heavenly Sword Marquis, if you can pass the test I set, then the opportunities in this secret realm will be handed to you. I left 4 opportunities in this secret realm, Shui Bei said. 4. Jian Wushuang's eyes lit up and his heart was full of expectation. First is the first opportunity. Shui Bei waved his hand and took out an interspatial ring. This is... Jian Wushuang looked at the interspatial ring in confusion. This is all the resources and treasures that I have collected in my life. They are all in this interspatial ring, Shui Bei said. Hearing this, Jian Wushuang's eyes couldn't help reddening. The treasures and resources that Shui Bei had collected in his life? Wasn't this all of Shui Bei's wealth? This was an extremely powerful principles master. All of his wealth? How many resources and treasures did he have? Jian Wushuang could not imagine. Don't be happy too early. This interspatial ring is not meant for you. Just as Jian Wushuang was excited, Shui Bei poured cold water on him. Jian Wushuang could not help but be stunned. Shui Bei had just said that he would give him an opportunity, and then he took out this interspatial ring. In the end, it was not for him? It's true that this interspatial ring is what I've collected all my life, but I intend to leave these things to the blood ancestor lineage. After all, there is competition among all the factions in the divine ancestor Taoist sect. This competition is very fierce, and the blood ancestor lineage also desperately needs the resources that I've left behind. The reason why I'm taking it out now is that I hope you can give it to the blood ancestor lineage in the future. Of course, I've already set a special restriction on the interspatial ring. Only the unique means of the blood ancestor bloodline can unlock it. Otherwise, even a principles master cannot open it, Shui Bei said. Jian Wushuang's expression became even more strange. Shui Bei glanced at Jian Wushuang. He said, Heavenly Sword Marquis, although you didn't take me as your master, you passed my test and can inherit my legacy. You can barely be considered half a disciple of me, so you can be considered a member of the blood ancestors bloodline. It's not too much for me to ask you to give this interspatial ring to the blood ancestors bloodline. It's not too much, of course it's not too much. Jian Wushuang just smiled awkwardly. You don't have to be too disappointed. Although I won't give you this interspatial ring that I've collected all my life, I've also chosen 3 special treasures for you. These 3 treasures are my first opportunity for you, Shui Bei said. Hearing this, Jian Wushuang looked forward to it again. First is the first treasure. Shui Bei waved his hand, and a 1-meter-long jade ruler appeared in front of Jian Wushuang. The jade ruler had a unique shape, and its body was carved with extremely complicated secret patterns. These secret patterns covered the entire body of the jade ruler. Moreover, the jade ruler was surrounded by 2 completely different powers, ice and fire. Seeing the jade ruler in front of him, Jian Wushuang's expression could not help but change. From the first glance at the jade ruler, he could already tell that it was extraordinary. This aura is extraordinary and superior. What level is this treasure? Jian Wushuang exclaimed. He had seen many treasures, and the most amazing one was naturally the mountain river map. However, because the level of the map was too high, Jian Wushuang could not see the specific level of the map. Other than the map, the other treasures Jian Wushuang had seen were probably far inferior to the jade ruler. This is the ice-fire swimming dragon ruler. It's a domain-type supreme treasure that I obtained by chance a long time ago, Shui Bei said. Supreme treasure? Jian Wushuang's pupils constricted. In the divine beginning world, there were all kinds of treasures, from earth treasures to heavenly treasures to holy treasures. Holy treasures were only used by the immortal saint, but the principal's masters, whose strength far surpassed that of the immortal saint, used supreme treasures. The supreme treasure of heaven and earth was extremely powerful. Jian Wushuang finally understood why the jade ruler's aura was so extraordinary and superior. It turned out to be a supreme treasure, and it was a domain-type supreme treasure. Among all kinds of treasures in the world, attack weapons and body protection armors were the most common, while domain-type, suppression-type, and soul-type treasures were very rare. Such a rare treasure was much more valuable than 10 attack weapons of the same level. A domain-type supreme treasure was naturally comparable to more than 10 attack weapons of the same level. If a cultivator wants to go further, he first has to survive in all kinds of dangers or environments. Only by living longer will he be able to walk a longer path in the future. That's why I left you this ice and fire swimming dragon ruler so that you can control your domain. With the help of your domain, as long as you don't encounter too strong an enemy, you can leave whenever you want, stay whenever you want, and seize the opportunity. You'll need this ice-fire swimming dragon ruler in the future, Shui Bei said. Yes, of course. Jian Wushuang was very excited. Of course, he needed a domain-type supreme treasure. After all, he was good at domains. Previously, he had relied on the combination of the 9 Bends Blood Light River, Star Armor Domain, and Prison of Punishment to suppress cultivators of the same level. However, because of his great increase in strength, this domain technique gradually weakened. There was nothing he could do. The 9 Bends Bloody Light River was only a 3rd-grade holy treasure. It was still very effective against some false saints or ordinary 1st-grade true saints, but at the 2nd and 3rd-grade true saints level, the suppression effect of the 9 Bends Bloody Light River was negligible. As for the Prison of Punishment, it was just one of the methods of the secret skill Divine Punishment. This method was just the most basic method. It formed a golden domain to trap the opponent and at the same time, produce a certain domain suppression effect. However, as Jian Wushuang had cultivated the Divine Punishment God to 30,000 feet high, this method was rarely used, because the effect was just SOSO. The only domain that had a good effect was the Star Armor domain. After the 9 Luminaries Star Armor reached the Heavenly Armor chapter, the Star Armor domain it used still had a certain oppressive effect. Now, if he got the Ice-Fire Swimming Dragon ruler and used the power of this domain-type supreme treasure, he did not need to use too much. Even if he only used 10% of it, it would be enough to greatly increase his battle strength. With the Star Armor domain, it would be even better. The effect would be even better. Without hesitation, Jian Wushuang waved his hand and took the Ice-Fire Swimming Dragon ruler. Shui Bei did not stop him. Chapter 3044, For Chances, Second Part. Next is the second treasure, Shui Bei said again. Jian Wushuang's eyes were shining, and his heart was full of expectation. The first treasure Shui Bei left for him was a domain-type supreme treasure, so he would not be able to find the second treasure. Under Jian Wushuang's expectation, Shui suddenly flipped his palm and a golden seal appeared in his hand. This is... Jian Wushuang looked at the golden seal and felt an extremely powerful aura from it. This is the ruler's seal. Before I became a principal's master, I specially hired someone to refine it so that I could better kill the immortal saint. Although this ruler's seal is not a supreme treasure, its value is not inferior to a supreme treasure, Shui immediately began to explain. The ruler's seal contains a special magic formation. Once it's used, it can seal a large territory as fast as possible. It can control time and space. The person holding the seal knows what's happening in the territory sealed by the magic formation. The magic formation can be big or small. It's all under your control. If you're in a fight and you're worried that your opponent will escape, you can use the ruler's seal to seal the territory. Unless your divine power is 2 levels stronger than yours, no one can escape from the magic formation. Jian Wushuang was shocked. He was shocked because the sight of the ruler's seal reminded him of the dragon imprisoning compass of the magic note divine kingdom. The dragon imprisoning compass could also seal a huge territory in a short period of time. At that time, the experts of the demonic sound kingdom had sealed off his territory so that he would not have a chance to escape. Its function was obviously similar to that of the master seal. No, although the dragon imprisoning compass is very powerful, it came from the magic note king. Even if a rank 4 true saint spent a lot of money to refine this treasure, its level would not be much higher. If I'm not wrong, the dragon imprisoning compass must have a great limit, Jian Wushuang thought. This was indeed the case. Although the power of the dragon imprisoning compass was extraordinary, it had already taken shape. The power of the array within the dragon imprisoning compass had a limit. In the hands of the magic note divine king, it could unleash its full power. The array could seal space and time, making it difficult for even a rank 4 true saint to escape in a short period of time. However, even if the magic note king's strength broke through to a rank 5 true saint, the power of the ball cage array would still not increase. It could only trap cultivators below rank 4. The ruler's seal was completely different. The ruler's seal directly controlled space and time, and the power of the magic array was automatically activated by the cultivator. The stronger the divine power of the owner of the ruler's seal, the more powerful the magic array would be. To break the magic array, the strength of the magic array must be 2 levels higher than the owner's divine power. For example, if Jian Wushuang used all his secret skills, his divine power would definitely be at rank 4 true saint level or even one of the best. At this time, he could use the ruler's seal magic array to seal an area, then this array, only the 6th level true saint and above the strong can be broken. Even a rank 5 true saint, a level stronger than Jian Wushuang's divine power, could not escape from this magic array. The seal of mastery, awesome. Jian Wushuang's eyes sparkled. Before the Ice and Fire Dragon ruler, is the domain class treasure, can let his life-saving ability greatly enhance. Now, the ruler's seal could increase his ability to chase after his enemies. With the ruler's seal in his hand, Jian Wushuang was not afraid that his enemies would escape. Even if his enemies had an immortal body, as long as they were trapped in the formation of the ruler's seal and could not escape, Jian Wushuang could kill them slowly. The last treasure is this. Shui flipped his palm again and took out several purple crystals. These purple crystals were very pure in color and would definitely be dazzling in the sunlight. Senior, what is this? Jian Wushuang asked. It's a universe crystal. I brought it back when I was adventuring in the universe battlefield, Shui said. Universe crystal? What's the use of this? Jian Wushuang asked. Its use is very broad, but it's not useful to you now. After all, if you want to use this universe crystal, you have to be at least a principal's master, Shui said. Only the rule master can use it? Jian Wushuang was stunned. Senior, since I don't need it now, why do you leave it to me? It's simple. Although you don't need it, it represents great wealth, Shui said with a smile. Didn't you say that you're a heaven-level member of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance? I know about the treasure pavilion of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. You can exchange these universe crystals for sacred elixirs in the treasure pavilion. If nothing unexpected happens, 1 universe crystal can be exchanged for 5 billion sacred elixirs. What? Jian Wushuang was shocked. 1 universe crystal could be exchanged for 5 billion sacred elixirs? But Shuebei had taken out 10 universe crystals. 10 universe crystals? Wasn't that 50 billion sacred elixirs? Take it. Although I didn't give you the interspatial ring, you are the inheritor of my legacy, so you can't be too shabby. These 10 universe crystals are for you, so you should spend them sparingly, Shuebei said. Thank you, senior. Jian Wushuang was very excited. He waved his hand and put all 10 universe crystals into the interspatial ring. After taking them, he was still very excited. The 3 treasures that Shuebei had prepared for him, Ice and Fire Dragon Ruler, Ruler Seal, and 10 universe crystals, all of which were extremely valuable and useful to him. But the 3 treasures added together were only the first opportunity that Shuebei wanted to give him. Shuebei had just said that there were 4 opportunities left for him in this secret realm. If the first one was like this, then the other 3 opportunities. The second opportunity one want to give you is a secret skill. Shuebei said again. A secret skill? Jian Wushuang was looking forward to it. This secret skill is very special. It's called Emperor's Order, Shuebei said slowly. The Emperor's Order skill is also a life-saving secret skill. It was obtained by the leader of the Blood Ancestor's bloodline, the Blood Ancestor, by chance when he was adventuring in the universe battlefield. After that, he only passed this secret skill to 2 people. One was his personal disciple, and the other was me. Now, I will pass this secret skill to you. With that, Shuebei slowly raised his palm and pointed his right index finger at Jian Wushuang's glabella. If I'm not wrong, you used the other principal's master's corpses to refine the Emperor's Order doppelganger, right? Jian Wushuang said. Yes. Shuebei nodded. Senior, I have a favor to ask of you, Jian Wushuang said. Speak, Shuebei said. My physique is very special and my divine power is very vast. Although I'm only a rank 1 true saint now, if I cultivate the Emperor's Order skill, the corpse of the expert who carries the Emperor's Order doppelganger cannot be done by a cultivator of the same level. Even the corpse of a rank 4, 5, or even rank 6 true saint who is stronger than me may not be able to do it. Therefore, I want to take a few corpses from this secret realm. I don't know if it's possible, Jian Wushuang said. How many corpses? Shuebei raised his eyebrows. These corpses were prepared for the cultivation of the art of Emperor's Order. Since you want to use them, of course, you can, but you have to be able to take them with you. Will I encounter any trouble when I take these corpses? Jian Wushuang frowned. Of course. Shuebei smiled. The corpses of the experts in my secret realm were all well known in the divine beginning world. Even the weakest among them was almost invincible among the immortal saints. Even if such experts are dead, there will still remains on their corpses. If you want to refine these corpses into tools to carry the Emperor's avatar, of course there will want agree. Is that so? Jian Wushuang understood. Let's try it later. Jian Wushuang had received the inheritance of the Emperor's Order skill, so he knew how powerful this secret skill was. He definitely wanted to cultivate this secret skill. However, to cultivate this secret skill, it was necessary to carry the equipment of the Emperor's Order doppelganger, which was the corpse of an expert. Next is the third opportunity, Shuebei said again. Jian Wushuang looked at him expectantly. Shuebei flipped his hand and took out a token. This is the third opportunity for you. Shuebei threw the token to Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang took it and scanned it with his consciousness, but his expression became strange. Because he could not see any information or content from the token. To be exact, there was something inside the token, but there was a layer of restriction inside the token, which prevented his consciousness from exploring. Senior, what is inside the token? Jian Wushuang asked. A star map, Shuebei said. Star map. Jian Wushuang was stunned. Just a star map was the third opportunity left for him? Jian Wushuang immediately understood that this star map was not a trivial matter. I told you before that I went to the universe battlefield and this star map came from the universe battlefield. To be exact, when I went to the universe battlefield, I entered a special space-time by chance. However, I was too weak and could not move in that special space-time. I had no choice but to leave. However, I used this star map to record the location of that special space-time, Shuebei said. Chapter 3046. Bodhi World, Another Universe Battlefield? Jian Wushuang's expression was strange. Senior, what is this universe battlefield? The universe battlefield, I don't know exactly what it is or where it came from, but I know that there are countless opportunities. As long as you have the strength and good luck, you can get unexpected things from it, Shuebei said. His expression was obviously a little excited. But soon he became serious. Little guy, your strength is still weak, but you can pass my test, and you have a big secret on you. The space for you to grow in the future will be huge. In the future, as long as you grow carefully, it shouldn't be difficult to become a top-tier warrior. And if one day you can break through to become a principal's master, when your strength reaches or surpasses mine, you can break this restriction and get the star map hidden in the token. Through the star map, you can go to the universe battlefield and find the special space-time that I found. I have a feeling that there is a great opportunity hidden in that special space-time. I didn't have the strength and courage to go there, but you did. If your strength is limited in the future and you can't break through to become a principal's master, you can give this token and the interspatial ring that I gave you to the blood ancestor, the leader of the blood ancestor's bloodline. I understand. Jian Wushuang nodded slightly and then carefully put the token into the interspatial ring. He understood that the star map hidden in the token was related to a great opportunity in the universe battlefield, and its value was immeasurable. Shuebei gave the star map to him in the hope that when he grew to a certain level, he would go to the space-time where the star map was located and find the opportunities inside. 3 of the 4 opportunities had been given to him, and there was only one left. Little guy, the last opportunity one left you is a good fortune, Shuebei said directly. Jian Wushuang's eyes lit up. Good fortune? 3 opportunities. The first opportunity was 3 priceless treasures. The second opportunity was the incredible Emperor's Order skill. The third opportunity was related to a star map of a great opportunity in the universe battlefield. The fourth opportunity was finally a good fortune. This good fortune also comes from the universe battlefield. Shuebei smiled. Then he flipped his hand and took out a stone. Yes, it was an ordinary-looking stone. At first glance, the stone seemed to have been picked up on the ground. However, Jian Wushuang's perception was extremely sharp. When he carefully examined the stone with his soul power, his pupils secretly shrank. Life! Jian Wushuang's heart trembled. He actually felt a vigorous vitality from the ordinary stone in front of him. It seemed that this stone was a complete life. This is... Jian Wushuang looked at Shuebei curiously. Shuebei smiled and said, I just told you that I found that special space-time when I was adventuring in the universe battlefield. Although I only stayed in that special space-time for a short while, I also obtained a treasure, which is the stone in my hand. A flower, a tree, and a Bodhi. This seemingly ordinary stone contains a complete Bodhi world. A Bodhi world? Jian Wushuang was stunned. It's okay if you don't understand. When you're ready, I'll let you enter the Bodhi world. You can stay there for a full 100 years. In 100 years, the Bodhi world will directly collapse, and the stone in my hand will also shatter. You will also come out of the Bodhi world. As for how much you can gain in these 100 years, it's up to you, Shuebei said. I understand. Jian Wushuang nodded. Although he did not know what kind of fortune was contained in the Bodhi world, the stone alone gave him an extraordinary feeling. Moreover, since Shuebei treated this as his last opportunity, it was certainly not bad. Little guy, you can prepare yourself first, Shuebei said. There's no need to prepare. I'm already at the peak of my condition, Jian Wushuang said. Well, let's go in. Shuebei clenched his hand, and the stone in his hand immediately burst out with a dazzling light. The dazzling light shone on Jian Wushuang, and his body began to shrink involuntarily, Then he slowly floated up like a piece of paper and finally completely disappeared into the stone. Inside the stone, in the Bodhi world. When Jian Wushuang appeared, he found that he had arrived at an otherworldly paradise. Here, the birds sang and the flowers were fragrant, and the land was full of vitality. There were lush trees, all kinds of flowers all over the mountains and plains, and much green grass under the ground. It was a scene of prosperity. In the middle of the land, there was a cottage. The cottage was small but exquisite. In front of the cottage, there was a clear river, and in the middle of the river, there was a wooden bridge. At first glance, it looked like a secluded place for an unworldly expert. Is this the Bodhi world? Jian Wushuang frowned slightly. Is there anything different about this world except that it's full of vitality? With a heart full of doubts, Jian Wushuang began to carefully explore the surroundings. At first, Jian Wushuang did not find anything different. He even searched the entire world, but he did not see anything different. However, when his consciousness simply swept past the woodpecker on a big tree, his expression suddenly changed. That bird, Jian Wushuang stared at the bird, or to be exact, every feather on the woodpecker's body. He first focused on one of the feathers, and in an instant, boom! He saw a person holding a sword and waving it. Yes, it was just a feather of a woodpecker, but he saw a man waving his sword. Moreover, the sword was light and casual. It looked ordinary, but there was an indescribable desolation in it. Jian Wushuang was stunned by the sword. He was completely stunned, because he could not understand that sword. He could not see through it. He could not even see the slightest bit of profoundness or sword principle, let alone understand it. But he could clearly sense that the sword move was many times more profound than the violent elephant and star dream moves that he had created. It was a complete difference between heaven and earth. The reason why he could not sense any profoundness or sword principle was that the sword move was too high level. It's obviously a bird's feather, but in the blink of an eye, it has evolved into a sword skill that is so unfathomable, Jian Wushuang murmured. After a long while, he looked at the second feather of the woodpecker. Buzz, buzz, the same scene appeared. It was still a person holding a sword and waving it, but this sword seemed to be chopping wood. The most important thing now is to improve my swordsmanship. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands. He had long known that the two unique skills, Xixiang and Star Dream, were not enough for a fierce battle. These two unique skills were not a complete sword skill at all. Therefore, he had to think of ways to create more unique skills to perfect his sword skill. In order to create new sword skill unique skills, the fastest way was to have a large number of profound sword skills for him to learn from, study and study. Unfortunately, such sword skills were too rare. Jian Wushuang did not have such an opportunity before. But now, there were countless powerful sword skills in the Bodhi world. He could study them as he wished. The only thing he felt regretful about was that it was too short a time. Only 100 years. Jian Wushuang might not be able to completely study such countless sword skills even if he was given 1,000 years, 10,000 years, or even tens of thousands of years. 100 years was indeed too little. I can't be too greedy. It's already good enough for me to stay in the Bodhi world for 100 years and carefully study it for 100 years. Senior Shuebe is right. This Bodhi world is a great fortune for me. What happens next will depend on how much progress I can make in the next 100 years. Jian Wushuang clenched his fists, his eyes sparkled. Soon he sat down under a big tree, closed his eyes, and began to meditate. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Jian Wushuang carefully inspected every leaf on the tree, and in an instant, pictures appeared in front of him. In the pictures, there was a scene of a person performing swordsmanship. The swordsmanship performed by that person was extremely profound. Normally, he would have to study this sword technique for a very long time. However, because there were too many profound sword techniques like this, he only saw most of the sword techniques once before he looked at the second sword technique. Even if there was one sword technique that inspired him, he would only see it twice at most. He would never see it a third time. Even so, it would still take him a long time to read all the sword techniques represented by each leaf on the tree. While reading the sword techniques, Jian Wushuang was constantly studying his own sword techniques in his mind. He was very determined. Although the sword techniques in front of him were powerful, he only watched and learned them. His real goal was to create a prototype of his own sword techniques. Then, he would create a brand new swordsmanship that was completely his own. Little guy, it's been 100 years. You must have gained a lot in the Bodhi world. Shui Bei looked at him. I did. Jian Wushuang nodded. That's good. Shui Bei nodded slightly. As long as you are satisfied, you won't waste my fourth opportunity. Jian Wushuang was secretly grateful. Shui Bei had left him 4 opportunities. Except for the third opportunity and the mysterious star map, the other 3 opportunities were of great use to him. Especially the fourth opportunity, the 100 years he had spent in the Bodhi world had surprised him. I've given you all the opportunities. You can leave now. Do you have any questions before you leave? Shui Bei asked. Senior, I have something to ask you, Jian Wushuang said respectfully. Tell me. If I know it and you are qualified to know it, I will tell you, Shui Bei said. Senior, you should know that I am an anomaly in heaven and earth, and the heavenly Tao doesn't allow me to do so. That's why I was extra careful when I was roaming around the divine beginning realm. I was afraid that I would attract the power of the heavenly Tao's will. However, in the divine beginning realm, other than the heavenly Tao's will itself, there are also some experts or forces that are on the same side as the heavenly Tao's will. This made me even more cautious and careful. Take the Heaven Cleaving Alliance for example. Although I am a heaven-grade member of the Heaven Cleaving Alliance, and the Heaven Cleaving Alliance has invited me to cultivate in the 3 palaces of Heaven Cleaving Alliance twice, I didn't know the position of the Heaven Cleaving Alliance. I was worried that the higher-ups of the Heaven Cleaving Alliance would notice something in the 3 palaces and get killed. Therefore, I declined both invitations. Before Jian Wushuang could ask his question, Shui Bei had already opened his mouth. You want to ask which forces in the divine beginning realm are on the same side as the will of heaven and will be your enemy, right? Yes. Jian Wushuang nodded. I know the answer to this question and I can answer it for you. Shui Bei said, in the divine beginning realm, the will of heaven is indeed very special and supreme. If it goes against the laws of heaven, the will of heaven will not tolerate it. This is also a fact. However, the will of heaven is not truly omnipotent in the divine beginning realm. It has many limitations, and even its own strength is limited. The will of the heavenly Tao is limited? Even his own strength is limited? Jian Wushuang was stunned. Because of this, some of the supreme experts in the divine beginning realm can completely ignore the will of the heavenly Tao. Even the will of the heavenly Tao has to retreat in front of him and don't dare to offend him, Shui Bei said. What? Jian Wushuang was shocked. Even the will of the heavenly Tao has to retreat and don't dare to offend him. Chapter 3049. Exhortation, of course there are. Shui Bei said with absolute certainty, I don't know about other powerful warriors, but what I know can make the will of heavenly Tao retreat. There are 3 people that I don't dare to offend. These 3 people are the founder of the Divine Ancestor Taoist sect, the Divine Ancestor, the Temple Master of the Temporal Temple, and the mysterious Alliance Master in the legends of the Heaven Cleaving Alliance. These 3 people have already reached an astonishing level of strength. They don't even need to fight. They just stand there and form their own world, which is not something the will of the heavenly Tao can touch. As long as they are in their place, the power of the will of the heavenly Tao will not exist. So powerful? Jian Wushuang was shocked, but at the same time, he immediately thought of his master, Xian Yi. Xian Yi was the first perfect chaotic creature in the world. His strength was also shocking. Jian Wushuang had been lucky enough to see a scene in which the power of the will of heaven could not do anything to Xian Yi and could only retreat. He wondered who was stronger, the founder of the Divine Ancestor Taoist sect, the Temple Master of the Space-Time Temple, and the Alliance Master of the Heaven Cleaving Alliance compared to his master, Xian Yi. By the way, Senior Shui Bei, you just said that the rulers of the 3 freedom alliances are supreme in the 3rd heaven. Shouldn't the 3 masters of the Saint Realm make the will of heaven retreat? Jian Wushuang asked. Masters of the Saint Realm? Shui Bei shook his head. I don't know if the three masters of the Saint Realm can make the will of heaven retreat, but I do know that they are not as powerful as they seem. What do you mean? Jian Wushuang looked at him. I don't know the details. After all, I'm not qualified to be in contact with some secrets of that level. But I heard from the leader of the Blood Ancestors bloodline that the three masters of the Saint Realm were just lucky and favored by the heavenly Tao. If they were not favored by the heavenly Tao, they would not be as strong as him, Shui Bei said. He's just lucky and favored by the heavenly Tao? Jian Wushuang was stunned. From the leader of the Blood Ancestors bloodline, it seems that he looks down on the three masters of the Saint Realm? I guess so, but so be it. Although the three masters of the Saint Realm are no match for the Blood Ancestor, they wouldn't be able to kill him alone. Moreover, the Blood Ancestor is the leader of one of the great sects of the Divine Ancestor Taoist sect and the founder of the Divine Ancestor Taoist sect. The three masters of the Saint Realm don't have the courage to deal with the Blood Ancestor, Shui Bei said. In other words, the founder of the Divine Ancestor Taoist sect is stronger than the three masters of the Saint Realm? Jian Wushuang asked. That's for sure. Shui Bei nodded. I've heard that any one of the three masters of the Saint Realm has to be respectful to the founder of the Divine Ancestor Taoist sect. Hearing this, Jian Wushuang could not help but sigh in his heart. He had always thought that the most terrifying people in this world were the three masters of the Saint Realm in the third heaven, but now it seemed that this was not the case. The founder of the Divine Ancestor Taoist sect, the Temple Master of the Temporal Temple, and the mysterious Alliance Master of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance might all be stronger than the three great Saint Realm Masters. Little fellow, you were just about to ask how many enemies you have in this world. I can tell you now that since it is an anomaly of the Heavenly Tao, other than being careful of the power of the will of the Heavenly Tao, you only need to be careful of the three great Saint Realm Masters and the forces under them. As for the other forces, you don't need to care about them. For example, the three great freedom alliances are not on the same side as the will of the Heavenly Tao, especially the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. Shui Bai's expression became serious. The Heaven-Cleaving Alliance is the strongest force among the three freedom alliances and has the deepest foundation. Just from its name alone, you can see that the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance has always been in a state of hostility with the Heavenly Tao will. The experts under the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance and the three Saint Realm Masters often have all sorts of fights and even fights. This has long been known by everyone. As you said, the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance has invited you twice. If you want to cultivate in the three palaces, you don't have to worry about it. You can just agree to it directly. When you get to the three palaces, the fact that you are an extraordinary figure may not be exposed. Even if it is exposed and the three masters of the Saint Realm know about it, the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance will do its best to protect you. Is that so? Jian Wushuang smiled. According to what Shui Bei said, his previous concerns were unnecessary. However, he was just being cautious. Now that he knew that the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance and the will of Heavenly Tao were enemies, he did not need to worry about the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. Little guy, I have answered your question. In addition, I have another word for you. Shui Bai's voice was solemn. You have great talent and great potential. Your achievements in the future should be limitless. But you must remember that no matter what level you reach in the future, you must always remain in awe of this world. That is to say, the heart of awe. Heart of awe. Jian Wushuang's expression changed. This world is too big and vast. You can't imagine how vast it is. Even what I know is just a drop in the ocean. Take the will of heaven as an example. For ordinary cultivators, the will of heaven is superior and cannot be challenged. However, for those who stand at the top of the divine beginning world, such as the founder of the Divine Ancestor Taoist sect and the Temple Master of the Spacetime Temple, the will of heaven is nothing. However, even super-existences like the founder of the Divine Ancestor Taoist sect, the Temple Master of the Spacetime Temple, and the Alliance Master of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance still have something they need to fear in this world. In short, there is always someone better than you. No matter what, you should always be in awe. For example, I was too careless and underestimated this world. That's why I ended up dead. I hope you won't follow in my footsteps in the future, Shuebei said. I will definitely remember Senior's teachings. Jian Wushuang nodded solemnly. Jian Wushuang also deeply remembered Shuebei's advice. In fact, even if Shuebei did not mention it, Jian Wushuang's awe of this world had never disappeared. Moreover, the higher his strength increased, the greater the awe. Now, through his conversation with Shuebei, he had a deeper understanding of this world. Jian Wushuang's awe of this world had reached an unprecedented level. Of course, what he feared was this world, but not the will of the heavenly Tao. The two were not the same thing. Chapter 30-50. Will, well, I've given you what I needed to give and said what I needed to say. Let's go. Shuebei waved his hand. Thank you, Senior. Jian Wushuang bowed deeply to Shuebei, his heart filled with gratitude. Although Jian Wushuang had never taken Shuebei as his master, Shuebei had given him 4 opportunities and left everything to him. Jian Wushuang could be said to have obtained Shuebei's mantle. Even if he did not acknowledge Shuebei as his master, he could still be considered half a disciple. Jian Wushuang was naturally grateful. After taking a deep breath, Jian Wushuang followed Gu Lao out of the palace. After Jian Wushuang and Gu Lao left, the huge palace fell silent again. Shuebei's consciousness avatar was still sitting on the throne, but his figure became more and more illusory and ethereal. Heavenly Sword Marquis, I can see that you have a great secret, which is far more than the heaven and earth. Your ambition and space for growth are beyond my imagination, so I didn't even think of taking you as a disciple. Although I don't know where you came from and what your real purpose is, at least you have my mantle. I hope you can fulfill your ambition and achieve your purpose in the future. His mumblings slowly echoed in the palace, but his voice sounded quite desolate. After leaving the huge palace, Elder Gu brought Jian Wushuang to the cemetery. There were a lot of stone coffins in the cemetery. The bodies lying in the coffins were once famous experts. Heavenly Sword Marquis, Master has promised that you can dispose of the bodies here, but only if you can take them away yourself, Elder Gu said. Okay. Jian Wushuang nodded slightly and looked at the many sarcophagi in front of him. The sarcophagi lay peacefully in the cemetery. At first glance, the entire cemetery seemed very calm. However, Jian Wushuang knew very well that the experts in the sarcophagi had remnant willpower on their bodies. Back then, Jian Wushuang was only a divine master. He had joined hands with several great divine masters to break into the cemetery. When he first saw the sarcophagi, he wanted to get close to them. The sarcophagi contained a powerful will, which made it impossible for them to get any closer. At that time, the will was too strong for him to resist, but now it was different. Let's try it first. Jian Wushuang walked toward one of the sarcophagi with a hint of anticipation. Inside the sarcophagi lay a woman. The woman was slender, more than 2 meters tall, and wore a white robe. Although she was dead and her eyes were closed, she still gave off an extremely holy and extraordinary aura. She was like a saintess. The reason why Jian Wushuang chose this woman was that when he first came to the sarcophagus, there was a low shout from the woman's corpse. Now Jian Wushuang was approaching her again. Get lost. A low shout suddenly exploded in Jian Wushuang's ear, just like the low shout from before. The low shout was accompanied by extremely strong willpower, trying to stop Jian Wushuang's steps. Yes, you are indeed an invincible existence among the immortal saints. Even after so many years of death, the remnant willpower is still extraordinary. If I were an ordinary first-rank true saint, I'm afraid I would be hindered by your willpower. I can't do anything to you. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. He continued to move forward. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps. He was getting closer and closer to the sarcophagus where the white-robed woman was, and the power of the will that was blocking him was getting stronger and stronger. Get lost. If you don't get lost, you'll die. The low voice was getting stronger and stronger, and it was getting crazier and crazier. What a joke! Jian Wushuang smiled disdainfully. He gathered his divine power and a powerful divine power aura swept out. His steps became faster and faster, and in the blink of an eye, he was in front of the sarcophagus. What do you want to do? The white-robed woman shouted in a low voice, but her voice was clearly a little panicked. Jian Wushuang glanced at the white-robed woman in the sarcophagus and his face darkened. No wonder you can shout in a low voice. It turns out that apart from the power of will, there is still a trace of consciousness left. However, a mere remnant of consciousness wants to obstruct me. How ridiculous! Jian Wushuang attacked directly. He waved his hand, and a terrifying divine power passed through the sarcophagus to the white-robed woman's body. The white-robed woman's body was not affected, but the trace of consciousness hidden in the body was destroyed by the divine power. Buzz. The sarcophagus completely calmed down, and the remaining power of the white-robed woman's will was directly shattered by Jian Wushuang. With a wave of his hand, Jian Wushuang put the white-robed woman's body and the sarcophagus into his interspatial ring. The process is very easy. It seems that the power of the immortal saints can't do anything to me. If I want, I can take away all the immortal saints' bodies in this cemetery, Jian Wushuang thought. However, although he needed the bodies of experts to carry his Emperor's Order clone, with his current strength, he could only condense one Emperor's Order clone. He only needed one body, even if there were mistakes in the refining process, 2 or 3 corpses were enough. It was useless for him to keep so many corpses. Most importantly, what Jian Wushuang really wanted was not the corpses of the immortal saints, but the 2 30-meter-long sarcophagi at the front of the cemetery. The 2 30-meter-long sarcophagi were the 2 principal's masters. Principal's masters were much more powerful than the immortal saints. Although Jian Wushuang was only a rank 1 true saint, his physique was too special. The divine power he possessed was enormous. It was a vast sea of divine power. Such enormous divine power had long exceeded the scope of an ordinary immortal saint. Even the immortal saints at the top, or even those who had reached the invincible level, the divine power they possessed was definitely not as much as Jian Wushuang's. Therefore, if Jian Wushuang wanted to use the corpses of the immortal saints in the cemetery to refine an emperor's life avatar, it was likely that the emperor's life avatar would not be able to bear all of his divine power. It was estimated that it could only bear 30 to 40% of his divine power, which was not what Jian Wushuang wanted. Jian Wushuang wanted to condense an emperor's life avatar that had the same divine power as his original body. Therefore, the best way was to obtain the corpse of a principal's master and use it as an emperor's life avatar to bear his divine power. Chapter 3051. Received, let's try it first. With a hint of nervousness, Jian Wushuang slowly walked toward the 2 30-meter-long sarcophagi. He walked toward the first sarcophagus first, but just when he was 10 meters away from the sarcophagus. Stop! A gentle voice suddenly sounded. Although the figure was gentle, it carried an unquestionable pressure, as if what he said was the truth and could not be disobeyed. Jian Wushuang stopped in his tracks. It was not that he did not want to continue moving forward, but a huge force came from ahead and stopped him. What a strong will. It's at least 10 times stronger than the immortal saint's will. Jian Wushuang's eyes were filled with shock. The difference between the principal's master and the immortal saint was like the difference between heaven and earth. Although the many immortal saints in the cemetery stood at the top among the immortal saints when they were alive and could be said to be invincible, no matter how strong and invincible they were among the immortal saints, they were still far from being comparable to a real principal's master. Jian Wushuang could crush the power of the immortal saint's will by force. However, the will from the corpse of the principal's master was so strong that he could not crush it by force. My Emperor's Order clone must have the body of the principal's master as a carrier. I must get the body of the principal's master. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands and activated the star power in his body. Rumble. A large amount of golden divine power quickly condensed on Jian Wushuang's body. In the blink of an eye, it had formed a huge golden emperor phantom. The golden emperor phantom was so tall that it had long surpassed the height of the cemetery. A layer of dark gold armor also appeared on his body. The 3rd volume of the 7-star secret skill, the Punishment Divine Realm, and the 9 Luminaries Star Armor, the Heavenly Armor chapter, had all been used. Jian Wushuang's strength instantly rose to the top, and his aura also soared. Retreat. Jian Wushuang's eyes turned cold, and a surge of supreme sword essence suddenly swept out. This sword essence came from the supreme sword essence in the Blood Mountain sword. As Jian Wushuang's understanding of sword principle greatly improved, the boundless sword tree grew to a height of 99,000 feet, and the sword essence in the Blood Mountain sword that he could guide was even more amazing. Now, he could guide almost 1/10 of the sword essence. With the support of this sword essence, Jian Wushuang's strength could reach a whole new level. Moreover, this sword essence was extremely fierce and dominated everything. The will that came from the corpse of the principal's master was also greatly impacted. Then, Jian Wushuang slowly lifted his foot and took a step forward with great difficulty. This step had shaken the will of the principal's master. Then, Jian Wushuang moved even faster. The will of the principal's master was no longer hindered. Finally, Jian Wushuang arrived in front of the sarcophagus. "I can't accept this." A mournful voice sounded, but the will on the body of the principal's master began to dissipate. Finally, it completely disappeared. Has it been defeated? Seeing that the sarcophagus had completely calmed down, Jian Wushuang heaved a sigh of relief. After a long while, he waved his hand and put the 30-meter-long sarcophagus and the body of the principal's master into his interspatial ring. After taking in the body of the principal's master, Jian Wushuang felt relieved. Then he looked at the second sarcophagus with the body of the principal's master. He also wanted to take the body of the second principal's master into his interspatial ring. However, when he approached the body of the principal's master, "Get out of my way or I'll die!" A cold shout suddenly exploded in Jian Wushuang's mind, making his head sink, and a trace of horror flashed in his eyes. He was dozens of meters away from the sarcophagus where the principal's master's body was, but no matter what he did, he could not get any closer. He could not even step forward again. The remaining will of the principal's master is much stronger than the one just now. Jian Wushuang was secretly shocked. The will of the principal's master just now was also very strong, but he managed to break it with all his skills. However, the will of the principal's master was not something he could shake. They are both principal's masters, but their strength is also different. The will of the principal's master is so strong, so his strength must be even more amazing when he was alive, Jian Wushuang murmured, feeling a little regretful. He wanted to take away the bodies of the two principal's masters, but it seemed that he could only take one at most. Well, one principal's master's body is enough. But just to be safe, he'll take a few more immortal saints' bodies. Jian Wushuang immediately began to work in the cemetery. The remnant wills of the immortal saints in the cemetery did not pose any obstruction to Jian Wushuang. He easily took 5 immortal saints' bodies and was ready to leave. Heavenly Sword Marquis, during the 100 years when you entered the Bodhi world to meditate, Master told me that if you reach the peak of the immortal saint or have already broken through to become a principal's master, you can come here again. After all, Master opened this secret realm when he was alive. After his death, this secret realm became ownerless. When you become a principal's master in the future, you must also open your own secret realm. You can come here and refine this secret realm directly. After refining it, you can use this secret realm as a reference to create your own secret realm. This will save you a lot of effort, Elder Gu said. Hearing Elder Gus's words, Jian Wushuang's eyes lit up again. "Thank you, Elder Gu," Jian Wushuang said gratefully. "You don't have to thank me. You should thank Master properly." Elder Gu waved his hand, and a space passage opened beside Jian Wushuang. "Go!" Jian Wushuang bowed to the deepest part of the secret realm, which was the palace where Shuebei was. Then he stepped into the space passage. Jian Wushuang stood calmly in the void outside. "I have entered this secret realm 3 times. Each time, I have obtained extraordinary opportunities, especially this time." Jian Wushuang sighed and felt quite happy. This was normal. After all, he had obtained too many benefits in this secret realm. "I've already obtained the opportunities in this secret realm. In the future, unless I reach the level of a principal's master and open my own secret realm, I'm afraid I'll never come back here again." And then, Chapter 3052, 3 Paths in the Treasure Pavilion, a secret lair of the heaven-cleaving alliance. Lord Sky Shuttle. Jian Wushuang stood in front of the golden light shadow. Sky Shuttle. What do you need? Lord Sky Shuttle's voice was still cold and emotionless. I want to ask how many sacred elixirs are needed to exchange for the second volume of the Gold-Splitting Secret Manual, Jian Wushuang said. The Gold-Splitting Secret Manual had always been of great use to Jian Wushuang. The reason why Jian Wushuang had made such great progress in the space-time principles and sword principle was related to the Gold-Splitting Secret Manual. However, there were 4 volumes of the Gold-Splitting Secret Manual. He had only obtained the first volume, which perfectly dissected the first and second stages of the space-time principles. However, the third stage of the space-time principles, the first volume of the Gold-Splitting Secret Manual, only dissected a part of it. He had only dissected a part of it, but he had not dissected a large part of it. Jian Wushuang's comprehension of the space-time principles had reached the third stage. The first volume of the Gold-Splitting Secret Manual was obviously not enough to satisfy his needs. Of course, he wanted to get the second volume of the Gold-Splitting Secret Manual. The second volume? Lord Tianshou looked at Jian Wushuang in surprise. Then he said, "The second volume, the Gold-Splitting Secret Manual, is indeed within the scope of authority of a heaven-level member, but it requires a total of 8 billion sacred elixirs." 8 billion? Jian Wushuang was shocked. Previously, the first volume of the Gold-Splitting Secret Manual was worth 800 million sacred elixirs. Now, the second volume required 8 billion sacred elixirs, which was a 10-fold increase. 8 billion sacred elixirs was an astronomical figure for him before. But now, he had the gift from Shui Bei, so he was confident. Moreover, the Gold-Splitting Secret Manual was very helpful to him, so it was definitely worth the price. "Sir Tianshou, I have a treasure here. I don't know how many sacred elixirs it can be exchanged for." Jian Wushuang flipped his hand and took out a universe crystal. At first, Sir Tianshou did not seem to care about it. However, when he saw what Jian Wushuang took out, his expression changed. Universe crystal. Sir Tianshou was indeed the treasure pavilion's weapon spirit. With just a glance, he had recognized the universe crystal. "You have a universe crystal? This can only be found in the universe battlefield." "Sir Tianshou, how many sacred elixirs can I exchange for this universe crystal?" Jian Wushuang asked. Sir Tianshou gave Jian Wushuang a deep look. He did not ask how Jian Wushuang had obtained the universe crystal. Instead, he answered directly, "Universe crystals are very rare in the divine beginning world. Even among principles masters, very few are able to take out a universe crystal. Its uses are also very broad. Under normal circumstances, one universe crystal can be exchanged for billions of sacred elixirs. You are a heaven-grade member of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. With your authority as a heaven-grade member, I can exchange this universe crystal for 5 billion sacred elixirs." 5 billion? Jian Wushuang's eyes lit up. Previously, Shui Bei had said that it would be no problem for one universe crystal to exchange for 5 billion sacred elixirs, which meant that universe crystals were worth more than 5 billion sacred elixirs. Now it seemed that it was true. One universe crystal can be exchanged for 5 billion sacred elixirs. If I add in the resources I obtained from the massacre in the Magic Note Divine Kingdom, I can directly gather 8 billion sacred elixirs. Jian Wushuang was pleasantly surprised. Shui Bei gave him 10 universe crystals. However, he knew that universe crystals were extraordinary. Jian Wushuang would not exchange them for sacred elixirs unless it was absolutely necessary. Now, in order to get the second volume of the Gold-Splitting Secret Manual, he was willing to exchange for one. As for the second volume, he would not exchange for it if he could. "Sir Tianshou, there is an interspatial ring with many sacred elixirs and a lot of resources. Its value is definitely not less than 500 million sacred elixirs. With this universe crystal, I can get 8 billion sacred elixirs. I want to exchange for the second volume of the Gold-Splitting Secret Manual," Jian Wushuang said directly. Sir Tianshou took the interspatial ring and glanced at it briefly. Then he nodded slightly and said, "Sure, what else do you need?" "I also need a file about the third heaven," Jian Wushuang said again. An hour later, in the hall of the secret lair, Jian Wushuang, who was wearing a gray robe and a gray mask, sat in front of a table. In his hand, he was carefully reading a file. There was a basic introduction to the third heaven, as well as a specific way to get to the third heaven from his current territory. According to this document, there are 3 ways to get to the third heaven from the endless territory, Jian Wushuang murmured. The first of the 3 ways was to travel alone. There was a detailed star map of the territory and some spatial passages that could be used as transit. However, the territories near the 9 realms of the Golden Crow were all remote in the endless territories. The geographical location was also very far from the third sky. If a true saint traveled by foot alone, it would take tens of thousands of years to reach the third sky. Even if there were some transit space passages in the middle that could reduce a lot of time, it would still take hundreds of years at the very least. Using this path to reach the third sky would cost the least, but it would be the most troublesome. The second path was to directly go through the wormhole and reach the endless territories. The Heaven-Cleaving Alliance was one of the 3 freedom alliances in the Divine Beginning realm. Moreover, it was the most powerful one. Its influence spread to every corner of the Divine Beginning realm. Every secret lair of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance had a space passage leading to the third sky. Through this space passage, one could reach the third heaven from the endless territory in less than 15 minutes. However, although this path was the fastest and simplest, the cost was the greatest. After all, the farther the distance, the more expensive it would be to teleport. For example, Jian Wushuang usually had to pay a great price to travel from one territory to another in order to complete the tasks of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance, and that was only for the close distance. If he was far away, even in the endless territory, he would have to spend tens of millions or even hundreds of millions of sacred elixirs to teleport. This was the case in the endless territory alone, and it was even more expensive to teleport from the endless territory to the third heaven. It would cost a total of 2 billion sacred elixirs. 2 billion sacred elixirs, although Jian Wushuang still had a total of 9 universe crystals on hand, and any one of them could be exchanged for 5 billion sacred elixirs. He did not want to exchange them easily. Moreover, 2 billion sacred elixirs were too high a price for single teleportation, so this path was also rejected by Jian Wushuang. In this case, there was only one last path left. Chapter 3053. The Region of Bones. The third path was a compromise between the first two paths. First, they had to spend 100 million sacred pills to reach the edge of the endless territories through the spatial passage. Then, they had to rely on their own strength to pass through the Region of Bones. As long as they passed through the Region of Bones, they would be in the range of the third heaven. According to the information, the Bone Region was a place where all kinds of people gathered. It was chaotic and full of killing intent. I just became an immortal saint not long ago, and I just created the Wushuang sword manual. Now, I need to practice my swordsmanship in a lot of battles. Experts in the Bone Region are everywhere, and there are many of them. Before I step into the third heaven, I can go there to practice. Jian Wushuang's eyes focused. He had already made up his mind. 10 days later, someone handed the second volume to Jian Wushuang. Just like the first volume, the second volume was still a detailed dissection of the space-time principles, but it was more than the third stage of the space-time principles, and even included part of the fourth stage. This was naturally very useful to Jian Wushuang. My comprehension of the space-time principles has just reached the third stage. This is already the comprehension level of many rank 4 true saints, and the limit of the third stage is estimated that many rank 6 true saints can't reach it. Those who can reach that level must be those rank 7 true saints who have already reached the peak. As for the fourth stage of the space-time principles, the fourth stage, mastering teleportation, that level was even more profound. According to Jian Wushuang's guess, the one who could master teleportation was definitely the top immortal saint. He was even invincible among the immortal saints. In other words, the second volume of the space-time principles should be enough for him to comprehend at the level of the immortal saint. After obtaining the second volume of the gold-splitting secret manual, Jian Wushuang did not delay in the endless territory. Instead, he directly set off and rushed toward the third heaven. Buzz. With a burst of dazzling light, Jian Wushuang appeared on a very strange island. There was also a secret lair of the heaven-cleaving alliance on this island. Is this the edge of the endless territory? That direction should be where the Bone Region is. Jian Wushuang stood on the island, looking at the distant void. Soon he set off. The White Bone Region was the closest territory to the third heaven. There was endless killing here. For many people, it was a paradise, but also a hell. Because of their yearning for the third heaven, many experts from the endless territory were left here forever on their way through the White Bone Region. This territory could be said to be a test that the cultivators of the endless territory had to pass before entering the third heaven. 3 days later, in a vast void, a team of more than 10 people was rapidly flying through the void. These 10 people all wore different clothes, but the auras they emitted were all extremely powerful. These 10 people were all immortal saints, but most of them were only at the false saint level. As for true saints, there were only 2 people on this team. Brother Heavenly Marquis, you must be new to the third heaven from the endless territory, right? A burst of hearty laughter came from the side. The speaker was a slightly fat bald youth. The bald youth carried a saber on his back. It was a blood saber, exuding an astonishing murderous aura. Yes, what about you? Jian Wushuang replied with a smile. Of course it's my first time too. The bald youth smiled. Actually, I've wanted to go to the third heaven for a long time, but something happened in my hometown, so I was delayed for a while. By the way, which territory is your hometown in? The 9 realms of the Golden Crow, Jian Wushuang replied. The 9 realms of the Golden Crow? I've never heard of it. The bald youth shook his head. My hometown is the 9 Seas Star Kingdom, the great divine kingdom created by a rank 5 true saint. 9 Seas Star Kingdom? Jian Wushuang's expression changed. He had actually heard of the 9 Seas Star Kingdom. It was one of the most powerful divine kingdoms in the endless territories. The king of the 9 seas had long reached the peak of the rank 5 true saint realm, and his battle strength was even close to that of a rank 6 true saint. In the endless territories, he was definitely a supreme super expert. 3 days ago, Jian Wushuang joined this team and passed through the Bone Region together with many immortal saints who were heading to the third heaven. This bald young man was called Jiu Luo, the only true saint in the team besides him. They were the only two true saints in the team, and Jiu Luo was a very enthusiastic person, so he naturally chatted with Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang had nothing to do anyway, so he did not dislike Jiu Luo. The third heaven. I heard from my master that as the true core of the divine beginning world, there are many experts there. True saints like us are definitely top experts in the endless territories, but they are everywhere in the third heaven. Even some of the 5th and 6th level true saints are very low-key in the third heaven. They don't dare to be too presumptuous because they might offend some of the real experts and kill them directly, Jiu Luo explained. You seem to be very good at the third heaven? Jian Wushuang looked at him. Of course, Jiu Luo said, but before we reach the third heaven, we have to go through the white bone field. It's very dangerous here. Oh. Jian Wushuang looked very strange. Jiu Luo seemed to be talking casually with him, but Jian Wushuang could hear a lot of information from his words. The most important thing was that Jiu Luo was not ordinary. He was definitely not an ordinary first-rank true saint, but at least he had some background. At this moment, buzz buzz. A strong divine power aura suddenly came from the void in front of them. Well, Jian Wushuang, Jiu Luo, and more than a dozen false saints in the team all looked up. As soon as they looked up, they saw more than a dozen figures rushing toward them. There were 15 of them, 11 of whom were fleeing crazily in front, while the other 4 were chasing after them. The 4 chasing after them were true saints, while the 11 people fleeing were only false saints. Facing the pursuit of the 4 true saints, these false saints could not resist at all and could only flee. Haha, if you want to run, where can you run to? Hearty laughter reverberated in the air. The 4 true saints were extremely fast and easily caught up to the fleeing people. Then they began to kill. No! Spare me! Why? Chapter 3055. 3 people _ 2 of the 4 rank 1 true saints were killed and 2 fled in the blink of an eye. When the other 2 fled far away, Jiu Luo put his blood-red saber back into its scabbard with a smug smile on his face. Brother Heavenly Marquis, how is it? Jiu Luo looked at Jian Wushuang. Impressive. Jian Wushuang gave Jiu Luo a thumbs up. He was not lying. Jiu Luo was also a rank 1 true saint, but he had killed 2 experts of the same level in the blink of an eye. His strength was indeed extraordinary. Although he was still inferior to the monsters in the heaven-cleaving 3 palaces, he was still a real genius. Lord Jiu Luo. The false saints in the group immediately walked over. We thank Lord Jiu Luo for helping us. If Lord Jiu Luo hadn't sent those 4 away, I'm afraid those 4 would have slaughtered us as well. That's right. Those 4 are true saints. Previously, slaughtering 11 false saints was as easy as playing around. Slaughtering us would definitely be very easy. Thank you, Lord Jiu Luo. You saved our lives. The false saints were all extremely grateful. Jiu Luo just smiled casually and did not care about it. Right, why did those 4 kill us? Someone suddenly asked. From their conversation, it seems that there is a sect called the Blood Evil Sect nearby. And the way they recruit experts is to let those experts kill the immortal saints in the specific territories around them. Only after killing 20 immortal saints can they become a member of the Blood Evil Sect. Bastard! We have no enmity with the Blood Evil Sect. How dare they send people to hunt us down? Isn't that right? The team was a little angry, but there was nothing they could do no matter how angry they were. In the end, they could only sigh in their hearts. I've long heard that the Bone region is extremely chaotic. There are all kinds of killings everywhere. It seems that it's true. Jian Wushuang sighed in his heart. The Blood Evil Sect doesn't sound like a benevolent sect. They open the mountain to recruit experts, but they actually asked these experts to compete in the number of immortal saints around them. Let's continue to set off, but we have to be careful. According to the 4 people just now, there should be many people wandering around this area, trying to kill us. Jiu Luo said. Everyone nodded and immediately continued on their journey. This encounter made everyone in the group even more cautious. However, Jiu Luo had also displayed astonishing strength during this encounter. The false saints in the group felt much more at ease when they thought about having such an expert in their group. This was a huge mountain range. The mountain range was endless. At the bottom of one of the mountains, there was a group of buildings. Within this group of buildings, there were many concealed and extremely powerful auras. In the air near the mountain range, 3 human figures were gathered there. These 3 people, 2 men and 1 woman, all emitted auras that had reached the first level true saint level. That group of buildings is one of the Blood Crow's strongholds? A deep voice came from the mouth of the muscular man who was over 2 meters tall and looked like a mountain. The muscular man was half naked, his thick arms and muscles were exposed, and his hands were wearing a pair of blood-red golden-rimmed gloves. The aura coming from the blood-red golden-rimmed gloves was also very powerful. It was an incomparably powerful sacred treasure. It's here. A black-haired devilish youth beside him revealed a devilish smile. The 3 of us came out together to carry out this mission. It's been almost 3 years now. The first 3 ring missions have taken us quite a bit of effort, and now we're only missing the last ring mission. The sooner we complete this mission, the sooner we'll return and report back. Okay. The mountain-like muscular man nodded. Mirage water, check carefully first. Make sure that the experts in this stronghold are the same as the information we've got. The one called Mirage Water was the only woman among the 3. She wore a white robe and her expression was cold. Although she was not absolutely beautiful, she was quite beautiful. After hearing the muscular man's words, Mirage Water nodded slightly. Immediately, a vast and mighty spiritual force covered the mountain in front of them. A short moment later, we have investigated clearly. There are over 30 true saints in this stronghold. There are a total of 4 rank 3 true saints, 8 rank 2 true saints, and the rest are all rank 1 true saints. The 3 rank 3 true saints that we are going to kill are all in this stronghold, Mirage Water said. Hearing these words, the muscular man's expression sank. According to the information we obtained previously, there should only be 3 rank 3 true saints in this stronghold. Now that there are 4 of them, it's a little troublesome to have 1 more. It was indeed a little troublesome. The lineup of this stronghold was already extremely tyrannical. Now that there was another rank 3 true saint, there were 4 rank 3 true saints staying there. If the 3 of them wanted to make a move, there would be a certain level of risk. What should we do? Don't tell me we should wait here and wait for that rank 3 true saint to leave? The demonic youth said. Wait. It's not that you don't know what the Blood Crow organization does. They rarely go out and move about. Most of the time, they stay in their nest or stronghold. If we foolishly wait here until they come out, how long will it take? The muscular man's voice was low. There's nothing we can do. We can only give it our all. Mirage Water, if your methods are a little strange, then it'll be a little more difficult for you. At the start, you'll have to deal with the 2 rank 3 true saints while the evil master and I will deal with 1 rank 3 true saint each. Well, think of a way to kill the 2 rank 3 true saints in the shortest amount of time and then come back to help you kill the other 2. No problem, right? The muscular man stared at the demonic young man, evil master, and Mirage Water. The 2 of them looked at each other and then nodded. The 3 of them instantly came to an agreement. But if outsiders were to hear their conversation, they would definitely be shocked. One had to know that the 3 of them were only rank 1 true saints, and they were threatening to kill a rank 3 true saint? Moreover, there were not only 4 rank 3 true saints in the stronghold, there were also 8 rank 2 true saints and a dozen rank 1 true saints. However, when the 3 of them were assigning their targets, they did not even mention these rank 2 and rank 1 true saints. It was as if these rank 1 and rank 2 true saints were like air to them. Chapter 3056, Blood Crow Organization in the Void. Jian Wushuang and Jiu Luo's team were still moving forward. While they were moving forward, they could hear the compliments of the false saints behind them from time to time. Lord Jiu Luo, your strength is too strong. Exactly. You killed 2 rank 1 true saints in a short time. Just now, a few more true saints came and were even stronger, but Lord Jioluo still defeated them by himself. We're so lucky to be able to follow Lord Jioluo. Now we can pass through the bone region safely. Some of these voices were whispered, while others were deliberately heard by Jioluo. Jioluo just smiled faintly. There was nothing to be proud of. Naturally, Jian Wushuang's expression did not change. But at this moment, buzz buzz. The blood-red light covered the heaven and earth, covering Jian Wushuang's team. What is this? Is it a restriction? Who used the restriction to seal this area? The false saints in the team immediately became restless. Jian Wushuang's eyes could not help focusing. Brother Heavenly Marquis, you have noticed that this restriction is not only very powerful, but it also seems to be isolated from the outside world. Inside the restriction, there is no way to communicate with the outside world, Jioluo said with a hint of solemnity in his voice. Indeed, but I don't know who activated this restriction. Is it coming for us, or... Jian Wushuang did not finish his words. Boom. A violent boom suddenly came from the void in front of them. The boom was unusually strong, followed by boom. Boom, boom, boom. The sound of violent energy collision, accompanied by a large amount of violent divine power aura, also came from the front. This is... Jian Wushuang immediately looked toward the source of the sound. There are people fighting there. Jioluo's expression also changed. It seems that the surrounding restrictions were triggered by the people fighting in front. Judging from the sound, the battlefield is in front and close to us. Yes. Jian Wushuang nodded. He could also see it. Brother Heavenly Marquis, should we go and take a look? Jioluo suddenly said with a hint of excitement. Jian Wushuang's eyes moved, but he nodded with a smile. Since we are trapped in this restriction, of course we should go and take a look. Let's go. Jioluo and Jian Wushuang set off directly. As for the false saints in the team, although they felt that the battlefield ahead was unusual, they still followed. To be exact, they wanted to follow Jioluo. In just a moment, Jian Wushuang and Jioluo had arrived near the battlefield. They stood side by side and looked up at the battle in the mountain range in front of them. However, when they looked up, their expressions became unusually interesting. The battle in the mountain range was unusually fierce. They could see at a glance that one side was all in black clothes with a vivid blood-red crow embedded on the back. It was obvious that they were from the same organization or faction. There were more than 20 people, and most of them had reached the true saint level. There were 4 rank 3 true saints among them. As for the other side, there were only 3 people, and the auras they gave off were all rank 1 true saints. Black-clothed, blood-colored crow? Blood Crow, it's the Blood Crow organization. Jioluo could not help but shout. Blood Crow organization? Jioluo, do you know about it? Jian Wushuang looked over. Of course, I've heard that the bone region is very chaotic and dangerous, and there are lots of killings. So on the way from the endless territory to the bone region, I've carefully browsed through the information in the bone region. There are countless forces and sects in the bone region, and most of them are not good people. Many sects are very vicious and evil. The Blood Evil sect we met before is one of them. Even with this glance, all the rank 1 true saints and rank 2 true saints who were swept by her gaze would have their divine bodies fall down without a sound, and their breath would be completely cut off. They could not even use their immortal bodies because their souls had already been directly killed. Chapter 3057. Passing by, how is this possible? This is too strong. Are they really only rank 1 true saints? The false saints in Jian Wushuang's team all had incredulous expressions. They were indeed incredulous. A rank 1 true saint punched a rank 3 true saint until he vomited blood? A rank 1 true saint relied on speed to suppress a rank 3 true saint and force him to retreat? A rank 1 true saint was able to kill a rank 1 true saint and a rank 2 true saint with a single glance, and he was able to restrain 2 rank 3 true saints by himself? Genius. This is a true super genius. Jioluo's eyes were burning. He was a genius as well. However, as a genius, he was far inferior to the 3 people in front of him. Any one of them could easily suppress a rank 3 true saint, but he would have to flee for his life if he encountered a rank 3 true saint. What's going on? Why did these three geniuses attack the stronghold of the Blood Crow organization? Jiao Luo asked in puzzlement. Jian Wushuang also frowned. Each of these three people is a true genius. They are stronger than Shui Yu and Qian Qin from the Heaven and Earth Palace. It's hard to meet such a genius, but there are three of them here at the same time. Jian Wushuang thought quickly. He immediately guessed that the three geniuses must be from the same force. As for the Blood Crow organization's stronghold, they were probably on a special mission. Huh! Jian Wushuang raised his head. On the battlefield, the evil-looking young man who was crazily suppressing a rank 3 true saint with a purple spear suddenly burst out. His spear skill was originally astonishingly fast, but in this instant his spear skill suddenly increased by 3 times. A dazzling purple light instantly pierced through the void, leaving the rank 3 true saint with no time to react. This purple light directly pierced through the throat of the rank 3 true saint, and then a destructive power exploded. The rank 3 true saint did not even have time to scream before his divine body was destroyed. Seeing this scene, the demonic youth smiled strangely and then charged to the side. He's dead. A rank 3 true saint was killed just like that? This is too terrifying. Besides, didn't a rank 3 true saint master an immortal body? How could he die without using his immortal body? The false saints in Jian Wushuang's team burst into an uproar when they saw this scene. It's poison. The evil-looking young man's spear has been infused with a special poison. It's a kind of purple poison. Jiao Luo narrowed his eyes. It's the Devil Star poison. Jian Wushuang's voice was solemn. Jian Wushuang had some knowledge of some poisons that could destroy divine power and kill true saint experts more easily. For example, the god-burning poison he used before was one of them. Although the god-burning poison was famous, it was only useful for some rank 1 and 2 true saints. At the rank 3 true saint realm, the divine power was purer and stronger, so the effect of the god-burning poison was negligible. As for the Devil Star poison, it was much more famous than the god-burning poison, so its value was naturally higher. With Jian Wushuang's permission as a heaven-level member, he could get 1 drop of the god-burning poison for 300,000 sacred elixirs in the treasure pavilion of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. However, the Devil Star poison, which he could get as a heaven-level member, cost 5 million sacred elixirs for 1 drop. There was a difference of more than 10 times between 300,000 sacred elixirs per drop and 5 million sacred elixirs per drop. For example, the evil-looking young man had killed the rank 3 true saint with only 1 drop of the Devil Star venom. They are so talented that they could kill a true saint with 5 million sacred elixirs per drop of the Devil Star venom. Their backgrounds, Jian Wushuang said with a serious expression. Although there were many experts of the Blood Crow organization on the battlefield, the only ones who could pose a threat to the three were the 4 rank 3 true saints. However, one of them was killed by the demonic young man on the spot, and the second rank 3 true saint was also in danger under the crazy attack of the muscular man. Boom! The muscular man threw a punch and smashed the head of the rank 3 true saint who was fighting with him like a meteorite. The head of the 3rd rank true saint exploded on the spot. Evil Master! The muscular man shouted. Coming! The rank 3 true saint who had just killed his opponent laughed loudly and appeared next to the muscular man. The moment the divine body of the rank 3 true saint in front of him started to fill up, he stabbed out with his spear. The tip of the spear only touched the divine body of the rank 3 true saint, and the rank 3 true saint immediately started to die. The second rank 3 true saint was killed. Next, the muscular man and the bewitching youth attacked again. The 3 true saints who were immersed in the white-robed woman's environment did not survive either. In just a short moment, the 4 rank 3 true saints were all killed. As for the rank 1 and 2 true saints, they were also crazily slaughtered by these 3. Because they were covered by the Scarlet Restriction, these rank 1 and rank 2 true saints had no chance of escaping. In the end, they were all killed. All of this was clearly seen by Jian Wushuang and Jiao Luo's team. Amazing! This is a true genius. Just 3 rank 1 true saints destroyed a stronghold of the Blood Crow organization and killed all the experts in the stronghold. They are so powerful. The false saints in the team could not help exclaiming in surprise. But at this time, the muscular man, the evil-looking young man, and the white-robed woman had gathered together. Huan Shui and the evil master. The muscular man looked at the 2 people in front of him and said, "It seems that everything is going well." Everything is going well? Not necessarily. The evil-looking young evil master had a strange look on his face, and his evil eyes looked toward the void to the side. The evil master was looking in the direction of Jian Wushuang's team. The muscular man and the white-robed woman, Huan Shui, also looked at Jian Wushuang and the others. 3 figures rushed over and arrived in front of Jian Wushuang and the others in an instant. Jiu Luo and the others were shocked. Jiu Luo took a deep breath and then said, "We are just passing by. We don't mean any harm." "I know." The muscular man nodded slightly. He could see that Jian Wushuang's team was just passing by, and they were sealed in this area by their restriction. But even if they were just passing by, Jian Wushuang and the others still saw with their own eyes that they destroyed the stronghold of the Blood Crow organization. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.